some cool boss guy. Gino and AJ from LA Speedweed, you are live. Are you tweeting?
I was retweeting your tweet.
Joe just recorded a jingle for us, so
yeah, that's your jingle.
Let's pull that.
That should be your new ringtone. First of all, Gino's been my friend for a long time, and he's basically he's the guy that turned me on to this whole LA marijuana delivery scene that is going on in LA, which was amazing for comedians and for anybody who has a medical card, where you could just call this cool dude and he would tell you what the great stuff is, and you hang out with him and talk with him and you could buy it, and it was all totally legal and above board. It was all good. But somewhere along the line, some fuckery ran afoot, and they came up with some new political rules that keep marijuana delivery services from operating. Because explain it, because essentially the way they've set it up is like you would have to have had a license to operate in each one of the houses that you're delivering to. Is that how it works?
Well, it used to be called the Wild West, out here in California for medical marijuana. And it very much was until they wanted to regulate it. And most of the people wanted it regulated because they wanted marijuana. So, yes, let's have marijuana. Yes, let's regulate it. However...
No, but hold on. People think that marijuana is legal in California, but it is not.
Absolutely not.
What we have is protection from prosecution. That's what we have, which means that law enforcement can knock your door down, take your stuff, take your weed, take your cash, take whatever you got there, and you can show them all the papers in the world, and they're like, that's great, that's cool, we're glad you're legal. Bring it to the judge, and you'll be good to go, and you'll get your stuff back in a year, and you guys will be fine. And that's happened to us. So,
but do you get your stuff back? Because I've heard there's a lot of people that have never gotten their stuff back.
We always have.
So how long have they kept your stuff for?
Over a year. So if you have weed over a year, they're not taking care of it. It's done.
That weed's useless.
It's useless.
So you lose how much money in a bust like that? Well, you don't have to say.
It
a substantial
on
amount of money.
Yeah.
Substantial amount of money.
Yeah, of course.
And so they give you the cash back.
They'll give you it.
They actually cut you a check.
Yes,
they cut you a check for the cash
from the district attorney's office. I have one hanging on AJ's wall in his office of them returning a few $1,000s to us. Which, because again, when there was any sort of trouble, it was, all right, you have to go see a judge. You go see the judge, and the judge looks at the paperwork. And in our first case, the judge said, we've never seen a more compliant company in California, and dismissed without prejudice. And our lawyer asked, instead of dismissing without prejudice, we actually would like that entered in to the record that you're calling LA Speedweed the most compliant marijuana company you've ever dealt with. So we had it entered into the record.
It didn't translate though. It didn't. I have a lawsuit on my desk that is. I'm holding my hands 18 inches apart, by the way. That is that high. This lawsuit from the city.
It's just super unfortunate because it's obviously not the will of the people. Whenever something's not the will of the people, like it's clear by all the gentlemen in this room, we're all grown adults and we all enjoy marijuana. We all have responsible lives. We all do stuff. We all get things done, and we all enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we're taxpayers. We're normal people. We're not freaks.
Mm-hmm.
We're not like ne'er-do-wells or someone who's clinging off the system and fucking up, social systems that we've set up for people that are trying to get by in this world. No.
And
we're regular folks.
We're just guys.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what you said just before, the will of the people. When they voted on this Proposition D, which is a zoning law.
No, hold on. Have any of you guys even ever heard of Zoning Ordinance Measure D? Has anyone heard of that?
No.
Of course not. Of course not.
Right.
Has anyone heard of it?
But hold on. We haven't heard of any zoning.
Nobody does.
Ever.
That's the thing is nobody pays attention to zoning laws. So now Speedweed and services like ours that are doing things the right way are closed in the city because of a zoning ordinance that was passed because all these pot shops are opening up. So they said they're opening near schools and churches. Got to protect the children.
Isn't it hilarious that opening them near churches is an issue?
Mm-hmm. It should be
it's
separation,
politics.
Church and state.
It's politics.
Well, they say that during the old days of the Catholic Church, when they would walk down the aisle with that incense thing, they would be burning marijuana Like that's what they would be burning, and they'd be wafting it through the room as they walk by. You know those things that they carry around?
Sure.
Those things had weed in them.
There's a pamphlet online about marijuana in the Bible.
That might not be true, by the way.
It seems like it's not true.
But let's just run with it. Don't even Google it, Jamie.
Well, Genesis 1:47.
There was
I have
weed
it.
in there.
That's probably one of them Todd McCormick quotes.
But
He probably told me that. And I'm like, oh, that's a fact for sure. I'm not even going to bother looking that
The
up.
wine is acid.
Sounds so good.
But certainly cannabis has been part of the
For sure.
human record since the beginning.
Right.
Well, it's a bizarre time we live in, and it's a long, complicated explanation. If someone who's never heard it before is like, well, how did it get illegal? Most of it got illegal because of William Randolph Hearst.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Which is bananas that here we are in 2016 and this fucking crazy man from the 1930s who was running all these newspapers, running everything. And the man that Citizen Kane's based on, the Orson
Right.
Welles movie, he was just a maniac. And he decided to get marijuana, to make it illegal so that hemp would be illegal.
Correct.
Because
the
he owned the
textile.
newspapers, he owned the timber industry, and you.
But it is insane that the propaganda that this guy created in the 1930s, even though we recognize it, everyone knows it. It's a fact. You can watch it.
Yep.
You can watch Reefer Madness. You can see what's written down, what they were attempting to do to make it illegal. The fact that it still sticks in 2016.
And you couldn't smoke that stuff that the hemp anyway.
No.
In the hemp fields, you can
hemp
smoke
is
it.
not psychoactive.
No.
Well, that is the craziest part. Like we sell hemp, but we have to buy it from Canada.
Yes.
Buy it from Canada and bring it down to the United States because even though it's legal and it's not psychoactive, these farmers, they can't grow it. I mean, they're starting to try to change those laws. But as far as I know, I don't know of any large-scale hemp growing operations here in the United States
Not yet.
It's
Not
too
yet.
dangerous.
But China's just dedicated millions of acres to
But
hemp.
it's your own. You have to worry about your own government when you're growing
Yes.
a plant that you make clothes out of, that
Right.
you make paper out of. That's all they're doing with it. Like, let's be really clear on that. That the hemp that they're growing, you can't get high off of it.
Right.
Correct.
It's totally non-psychoactive,
You never
and yet
could.
it's federally illegal. There's a fucking plant that makes the best clothes. It makes way stronger fabric, way stronger paper. You can eat it. It has all the essential amino acids. It's like a full, complete amino acid profile. It's like one of the very few plants that's like that.
You can make biofuel out of it. You can make
It's fucking crazy.
livestock food. You look at old Ironsides, the USS Constitution. The flag and the sails are made of hemp, and they're still those are the original things from
Well, it's-
hundreds of years ago.
It's one of the best things that nature's ever created. This fucking fiber. It has this incredibly powerful fiber. Like, who the fuck was it? One of my friends has an actual hemp stalk, and I was over his house and I picked it up and I was like, whoa. This is like a fucking alien plant,
Right.
Because it's hard as like a hardwood,
Tensile
like oak.
strength stronger than steel when it's wound properly.
Yeah. So it feels hard like oak, but it's light like balsa wood.
Yep.
It's really weird.
You can make spaceships out of the shit, it feels like. It's light and strong.
And we're not using it
No.
because it's illegal. It's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
Parachutes used to be made out of it. I know George Bush Sr. jumped out of a plane with a hemp parachute. So
All canvases.
well,
All canvases. The Mona Lisa was
Yes.
painted on cannabis. It
Our
was made
founding-
on hemp.
Our founding fathers had hemp fields in their farms because hemp cleans the fallow fields after wheat fucks up your fields and corn fucks up your fields. Hemp goes in there, cleans it all out.
It's such an identifier of how goofy people are here in 2016 that's an issue.
Yeah.
That we're dealing with this weird hemp thing because it's related to marijuana. Like,
Does
so what
anyone
do you-
listen? Does anyone hear this though?
Yeah.
I mean, do people really, with Trump and Hillary and Bernie, do people really care that
They do. They
about
don't know.
William
Most people
Hearst?
don't know. Most people have no idea. Most people think that there's some health-related risks, and that's the reason why it was made illegal.
That's why it's such a frustrating time for us because we start talking about zoning ordinance D and people are like, "Oh, I'm so bored. Can't we just get baked?" What do you mean you're out of business?
Well, don't you feel like how long have you guys been in the business?
about 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
6 years.
How much has changed in 6 years?
So
Because
much.
Since
That's
I've had a
tremendous.
card, I got my card in. It was in the 90s, I
In
believe.
the 90s.
Yeah.
So there was just one state.
Yeah.
It was here.
Yeah.
When we got in the business, there was about 5 states that were legal. Now there's 24. When Florida's going to go, that's going to be 25 plus DC. It's half the country.
That's crazy.
And CBD is, if you include CBD, there's only like 7 or 8 states that are not participating. Like, yeah, 7 or 8 states.
I guess now I think about it, I guess it was more like 2001.
That's still way early.
But my point was going to be that it's way more relaxed now. It's way more prevalent. I used to have to go to Inglewood. I go to Inglewood Wellness Center. Mm-hmm. It's in the hood, son.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the gentlemen that worked there got shot, and that's when I stopped going to that place.
But that's how it was when we started.
Right. When we started, AJ wasn't much of a smoker when I moved out here to California. He
It's condescending. Now you're being condescending a little bit.
Are you guys fucking with each other right here live? On the podcast?
We were working in technology for the government before we started Speedweed together.
You guys are CIA. I knew it.
And
I knew it. They've infiltrated.
Don't put me in Sturgill Simpson's category.
Let me tell you this story real quick. Sturgill Simpson was on stage, and some dude yells out in the audience, "Sturgill, please tell me you're not really a CIA assassin." And he just shrugged and went on to the next song.
That should be the answer.
That fucking Wheeler Walker Jr. How funny is that dude? Oh my God, he's hilarious.
So AJ was we were working in a stressful environment, working for Congress at the time, and he was actually drinking to medicate himself as we were, working, doing technology coding and things like that. And he started playing with neurotropics to say, you know what, I'm not going to drink anymore. And I said, instead of neurotropics, why don't you try cannabis?
I was that guy who had the shelves of modafinil and Neuropept and L-theanine, all these different crazy things that you can get on or off the market. And Gino's like, just smoke this. Just put all that shit away, put the booze away, and just smoke this. I'm like, no, it's going to make me freak out.
Well, one thing that nootropics do help, it helps me maintain memory while under the influence. Because it's one of the most slippery things about being under the influence of pot is the memory. Is like the memory gets real slippery.
Sure.
Yep.
I think
I gave him Alpha Brain also when we first started.
Yeah,
that'll help. Some people say that nicotine actually helps in some strange way.
I use nicotine every day.
Yeah,
That's your Nicorette. I've never smoked.
He started chewing the nicotine gum, a few years ago, and I said,
so
I
you're
can't
on the
believe
ball.
it.
I love it.
Yeah, well, this is what it is. Like nicotine itself apparently has similar effects to a lot of nootropics, and that it does something to stimulate your brain function. But smoking is fucking horrible for you. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's not really the getting of the nicotine, which is so confusing because you automatically assume nicotine equals lung cancer, everybody dies, that's so sad, why do they do it? And then why are you doing nicotine? And you go, no, it's the smoking of these chemicals that's fucking up your lungs and it's giving you cancer. It's irritating your lungs. You know when people cough, it's harsh, fucks your lungs up, you get cancer, you die. That's what's going on. It's not the nicotine's fault.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So nicotine itself is some sort of a very strange compound that sort of like stimulates your mind a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's the drug that just knows. Like if you're wired, it relaxes you. If you're a little bit cloudy-headed, it gives you a boost of energy.
Dude, it sounds like it's in your veins. That's your friend.
I'm
it's like the drug who knows, man. The drug knows. The drug knows. A boy has no name.
The gum is so gross.
I love it.
Deep in, man. Look at you. The drug that knows. That's hilarious.
The 4 milligram coated fruit flavored from Target.
Oh,
I'm down.
horrible.
So me as his brother, I wanted to do what I could to try and help this situation. It didn't really need to be helped that much, but I said, look, you should just try marijuana. It's what regulates my mood and has since I've been smoking almost daily since 15 years old, so I said let's go to the doctor. And he didn't want to go to the doctor with me.
No, there's because this is back in the early days when everything was sketchy. So we go to this office building that is up in San Fernando, and there's like barbed wire around the building. We go in this sketchy office building, and I'm freaking out the whole time. Our dad's a cop. We've got clearance from the government. This is crazy. And Gino's just like, chill, let's do it. We're fine. Chew your nicotine, let's go. And we go into this office, this doctor's office. It's clearly not a doctor's office. And they say, you know, the doctor will see you both now. And now I'm freaking out thinking like, what, I have to like get undressed in front of my brother and sit on the paper with this doctor. I don't know what I'm doing. And we just go into a room and there's a table and he sits across from us and he asked me first, unfortunately, why do you need weed? And I said, and I'm staring at him. My brother's looking at me, and I can feel him going, "Don't fuck this up! Like, don't fuck this up." So he's like, "Oh, you have stress?" I said, "Yes." You have trouble sleep? I said, "Yes." He says, "Okay, you have weed," and he called it weed. He called it weed. And then he goes to my brother, "Why do you need weed?" And my brother goes, "I have stress and trouble sleep." He's like, "Okay, you have weed." And we got these papers, and that felt so sketchy. But we went to a dispensary that afternoon, and it was like. Amazing.
Yeah, those early people that started open dispensaries like the Inglewood Wellness Center, those people were like the pioneers in the Wild Wild West. That is a gangster move, man.
Yeah.
Well, it took almost a criminal element to be in business at that point, and that's why we're going back to these laws that say you had to be in business before 2007 in order to even be considered in these few that are allowed.
Well, let's explain the whole zoning thing. So the issue is delivery, right? That's what the issue is.
So Prop D is what governs all of LA's marijuana laws. That's a zoning law.
So there's 135 shops that are allowed. Those are the ones that have been operating since 2007. They're called pre-ICOs. Any other shop you go to is illegal. Any delivery service you use in the city of LA is illegal, according to Proposition D, which we are fighting in court, by the way. We are fighting that.
And that law just came out in 2012.
No,
2014.
2013, 2014.
So
We had been in business for years. We had already been working with the state government for years on the process of legalization. We advised the state assembly. We're the only retail company on the Board of Equalization stakeholder panel. I know I'm in the weeds right now, but like we are the company that instead of suing us, you should have just said, "Hey guys, what's a good way to do this?"
You know, that's important to talk about. That the Board of Equalization is kind of like the IRS for the state. If you're a commercial business, you pay your taxes to the Board of Equalization. Well, the Board of Equalization chose our company as the one retail company that they wanted to present to the legislature, to the people we presented with the New York the California State Troopers,
the Highway Patrol, the Teamsters, insurance company, and an app company, and us.
Can I just say the Board of Equalization? Just that name. It sounds like some sort of an overseer in a Woody Allen movie about the future.
They kind of are.
The Board of Equalization, like that's some like fucking utopian nightmare movie, right?
Fear
Where
them.
you have to sit. How are you equal? Well, just try to be a good neighbor. Not good enough, white man.
See, any business owner hears Board of Equalization and they're freaking out.
a scary
they're
term.
laughing, but they're also afraid.
What does equalization mean? Is that a real word? That seems like they made that word up.
Now that I think of it, that's kind of fucked up that it's called equalization. Like, we're going to take the business's money and give it to y'all here so we can all get equalized.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
Some people are lazy.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
There's got to be a way, though. They think that a universal basic income, that giving people $13,000, though, like giving everybody Michael Shermer actually just tweeted this, who's that really intelligent skeptic guy. And they think giving people $13,000 a year, like giving it to everybody, would reduce crime, would reduce poverty. It would give people chances to pursue other things if they had universal basic income. It's a really strange concept because it's one of those things that everybody has an knee-jerk reaction to. I definitely did. I heard it and I was like, what? Get out of here. You can't just give people money. People are too lazy. But the more I read about it and the more I see people who are quite a bit more educated than me on this subject, they think that it's possible that doing something like that would actually cost less money in the long run because it would start a cascade of positive events that giving people enough money to get by on, right? That would start like a series of events in a lot of these people's lives where issues would be taken care of that are insurmountable otherwise. And that it'll start some momentum in a positive way and that you're going to deal with less crime and and you're going to deal with less violence, so you're going to deal with less need to deal with the problems and the financial repercussions of crime and violence. It'll overall cost less money to the community.
I'm skeptical, though. My knee jerked when I heard this.
Of course, I did. Mine did too. And I was first talking about it with my friend Eddie Huang from Vice, from that Vice show.
Yeah.
What's his fucking show's called again? Huang's World or something?
Huang's World.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But he brought it up, and I was like, what? Get the fuck out of here. And then when I realized that there were a lot of people bringing this up, I said, okay, well, let me put my knee down. And the knee jerk. Let me just open-mindedly look at this. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the like, if you give people money, they're just going to be lazy, and they're never going to get anything done. And you're going to deal with a bunch of lazy people.
The lotto effect.
Right. Like the worst fears that people have when they worry about welfare, that you create a welfare environment where people get accustomed to that and they have no ambition and nothing ever gets done. It's almost a way to poison people's ambition is to give them money. Like
Switzerland just had this thing where they were going to give everybody, I think it was like $2,500 a month, just like free income. And then to hope that that would pay for everyone to be like just a little bump, so they would keep their jobs and stuff like that, and their shitty jobs would feel a little bit better. But then they denied it.
Yeah, it didn't pass.
Yeah, it didn't pass. But that would be interesting. Everybody getting free income.
Well, yeah, that's the idea behind this.
And Switzerland is like a very inclusive country where everyone serves in the military and has to participate.
That would be a good place to try something like this, because America's obviously a little bit more loosey-goosey with that kind of shit.
We are. We have spread that. We dollar bills, y'all.
Right. It's also how big is Switzerland? Like, how many people live there? I mean, that would be like giving universal basic income to L.A.
Right.
You know, really.
Those are the arguments for like universal health care and all that. Well, it works in Finland. Well, Finland is like the size of Long Island and Westchester County.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's tiny. I mean, just think about like the stuff that flies in Canada.
Right.
You know, Canada is a totally different country. They're connected to us, but they're fucking completely different. And they're right there. So if anybody says it works for Canada, like, there's only 30 million of them.
That's right.
They have a huge fucking country, and there's only 30 million people. And they're just nicer.
They are.
They're just nicer.
If there's a Canadian in the room, you know it immediately.
Yeah. They're nicer. They're like some of the nicest fucking human beings on the planet. It's the one country that I wouldn't think twice. I wouldn't think twice about moving to Canada.
Well, they're ahead of the curve on cannabis for sure.
Oh, yeah.
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 Delivery is the only option in Canada.
Right.
And it's government sanctioned.
Yeah, the government is essentially this new guy that has gotten in. What's the new guy's name?
The young guy.
The young guy.
Handsome fella.
Trudeau.
Yeah.
Trudeau. Thank
right.
you. I got to think of the guy from Doonesbury.
That's how I do it too. That's how I do it too.
The government is also behind their alcohol sales also in Canada. Like, you can't buy liquor unless it's through the government.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know how I
Government
feel about
controls.
that.
I'm
Government's
not
a drug dealer.
Yeah.
In Canada.
In Canada.
Yeah, I'm very libertarian, so I don't like the government involved wherever possible.
Yeah. They've
But-
had some interesting rulings about comedy up there, too. There was that one guy that got heckled by some women in a nightclub in Vancouver. And apparently they were really drunk, and, you know, things happen at comedy clubs. People get crazy. They yell things out. You're serving people drinks. They're going to get crazy. They're going to yell things out. So he was yelling things at them, and he said a bunch of rude stuff about them being lesbians, a bunch of homophobic stuff. And they sued him, and they won.
$15,000.
They won $15,000.
Suing.
You know what
Enough
the
with
problem with
lawyers.
that is, man? Once people start hurling insults at each other, like the women hurled insults at the comedian hurled insults at the woman. I don't know who started it off. I think that would be imperative to find out who started it off. But I know that the guy was on stage doing stand-up, so they're not supposed to be yelling. This isn't a conversation.
Right.
If they're talking to him, I guarantee you, unless he's a crowd worker, I don't know if he's a guy that works crowds, but I guarantee you, most likely, he was getting interrupted. So he was trying to do his act for all the people in the room, and he was getting interrupted, and then it got ugly.
Right.
And what's the answer? To have people sign waivers before they walk in the comedy clubs? It's silly.
It's just you can't, you know.
There's
like,
that unspoken
you can't have
rule.
a monetary reward for someone that heckled. You shouldn't be able to extract
it's
money
dangerous.
from a comedy club like that.
Because you could go in trying to make it happen.
Exactly.
Well, look, you go to a baseball game, you get hit with a foul ball, you die. You can't sue anybody because it's kind of a given that dangerous shit is flying around, balls are fast and hard.
Yo, fuck baseball. I didn't know that could happen.
And golf.
But if you go to a comedy club.
Oh my God, fuck golf.
Comedy club, first rule is you're in the audience, shut the fuck up. Second rule is let the comic say what he wants to say, and you might get offended. That's a chance you take going in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to stand up for the hecklers in any way, but the only way that it could be different is if it's like Rick Ingram works the crowd constantly, talks to people. And if you have a thin skin, he's hilarious. But if you have a thin skin, he'll fuck with you.
Right.
And like maybe you didn't want that. And so maybe you insult back. And, Rick knows how to handle stuff like that. But I'm saying if he's one of those kind of comedians that works a crowd.
That's cool.
But it could have been that he insulted them first. It's the only time that I could see where they would get pissed off. But from what I understand, they had been heckling all night. That was according to his version of the story, which it's not like people wait to heckle. Someone who's a heckler, if there's 4 comedians in the night and the 4th guy goes up, that person's probably been heckling all night.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're just going to keep doing it.
Now they're just drunker.
Exactly.
Does this scare you though? Like doing material in Canada in the future, if it gets heated with like you and a heckler, are you gonna be like, shit, this is Canada, I better step back a little before I call her this and that or him and this and that? Because I mean that kind of opens the door for this to be able to like, oh, now we're allowed to sue if if the comedian isn't mean to me.
Yeah, well, it's a dangerous precedent to set, and it does not make me comfortable. And hopefully, I'll never have to deal with it when I'm up there. But
what
it's
about
just,
Montreal though? I mean, the
love
nightlife there
Montreal.
is like makes New Orleans look like lame, look like Provo.
Montreal's
awesome.
a beautiful town too. I love performing there. I find crowds in Canada to be really polite. I mean, I've had some hecklers in Canada, but you're gonna have hecklers when you get people drunk. They're gonna fuck it up.
The only thing you could do is probably like they're doing in South Carolina. You have to boycott it to make some kind of change. How they're boycotting South Carolina.
No one's gonna
boycott
going to Vancouver because of this one rule.
No.
The loophole is at the end of heckling, you could just say, just kidding.
That doesn't work. You're like a fucking dude that thinks, I know what I'll do when a plane crashes. I'll just jump out at the last second right before it hits the ground.
At the end, go, allegedly.
Yeah, you don't understand physics. Not that I do, but yeah. I don't know, man. It's not a good thing. It's definitely not a good ruling.
Yeah, the fact that he lost is very dangerous for.
Well, there's another one going on right now.
Really?
Where another guy got in trouble. What is his name? Chris something or other. He's a comic from Montreal. I think he speaks both languages. I think he speaks French and English. Chris Wade, is that his name?
You see, they don't have the pesky First Amendment to deal with.
No,
I guess.
yeah. So this is what happened with this gentleman. I'll find out this dude's name. He's a dude who's getting sued because there was a sick kid, and he made a joke about it.
That's right.
He the joke was, it was something, I'm going to paraphrase it, I'm going to do a shitty job, but that a lot of people donated money because this kid was dying, but then he lived for like several years, and then the joke was, hey, he's not even sick or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Ward, that's it. What is the joke? Pull up the joke so we could analyze it. What did he say?
Oh no, I'm afraid.
Does it say what the joke is?
Oh,
the kid's got a serious illness.
No, it doesn't.
That's not a Snapchat filter.
We're looking for whatever the joke was. It doesn't. Does it show the actual joke or no?
No, I don't think so.
No. Maybe it might have been too offensive.
That's the thing is, in this room where it's like no rules, I'm afraid to even make a comment on that. That's a joke. You could play the joke. I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to smirk.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of comedians, that really enjoy saying ridiculous shit that they don't really mean because it's funny, because it's so shocking and ridiculous that it's funny. There's a real danger in pretending that those guys are just speaking their absolute mind and like giving affidavits in court, relaying incidents with cold, hard disengagement from the facts. No, these are comedians trying to say fucked up shit that they don't really mean. And one of the reasons why it's funny is because they don't really mean it. And they're saying it, and it's ridiculous. Like Brian Holtzman. right?
He's
Brian
a great
Holtzman's
example.
my perfect example. He's one of my favorite comedians ever, and he's so ridiculous. He says things that I don't want to give away any of his material, but he says things that he absolutely does not mean.
Right.
And he says it in this character, and it's fucking hilarious. But it's a landmine for anybody looking to point to a guy's performance on stage and try to pretend that somehow or another what he's doing is what he really means.
Right, and if you see audience members getting angry at it or something, it's hard to imagine how they can't see that it's a character.
Yes.
You know?
It's not hate speech. It's just a set. I'm
Well,
just
it's-
doing material.
I maybe think that we're too close to it, honestly, because I think if someone didn't know, it might take them a few minutes. Like, say if you're not a savvy comedy store regular type person or someone who enjoys comedy on a regular basis, you could go and watch Holtzman and go, what the fuck is going on here? And that what the fuck is going on here might last 10 minutes before you catch on. Like, that this guy, because he'll let you in on it. He'll smirk and joke in between, his ramblings. But I could see people not getting it.
Well, that's the thing. He'll jerk and make the smirk in between things. But the people who are already mad, they skip
Yes.
over that part.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. They just think he's a crazy person.
Right.
He never justifies, though? Because, I think I've seen in your special, you say, a lot of this is just comedy, people.
Yeah.
But does he ever say
No.
No.
He did
no,
just like
no.
He did a 15-minute version of his Gay Son the other day. I had never seen
God.
the full 15-minute version of
God.
it. It was beautiful. That could be a comedy special, just that 15-minute version.
Yeah, that is the best example of his bits too, as far as like the most fucked up thing you could imagine, like in joke form, but it's obviously not true. It's so preposterous when he gets into it. It's, oh my God, it's funny.
And
It
it
is.
could offend people, and if it does, to live in a punitive society that he can't be an artist and perform his art because he has to worry about being sued.
Yeah.
He's already not making enough money to be sued for.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing: you have the right to be offended, but people don't have to agree with your opinions on things. So if you're going to see art, right, whether or not you think stand-up comedy is art, you're creating it, right? You're creating that. This guy is performing art. You either like it or you don't like it. And if you don't like it, you don't have the right to interrupt it. You're supposed to leave. Just leave. That's what a polite person does.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some stuff that I didn't like and I left. I've gone to see a movie and I didn't like it and I left. There's nothing wrong with that. But to interrupt it for everybody else that's watching the movie, that's a piece of shit move. So you're rewarding someone who did a piece of shit move. It's like, it's not a good person. A good person doesn't heckle. I mean, it's not that people who are hecklers are bad people, but they're drunk and fucked up, and that makes them a pain in the ass, But a lot of drunk, fucked up people are actually good people, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But when you reward that kind of behavior like this, like, you could say that you think that the comedian's not funny. You could say, don't ever go see him. You could cast judgment. You could do whatever the fuck you want. But to say he owes her $15,000, then it's like, okay, who is the retard in charge here?
Right.
Who the fuck said yes to this? Is
Now,
this
what
a
do you-
judge? Is this a group of people? Can I sit down with you fucks
Human
and
rights.
talk to you and try to figure out what the fuck is going on in your mind?
Right.
You're going to charge him?
AJ, what's the punitive rule for the labeling that you have to put the cancer?
That's Proposition 65. You have to label all marijuana products with this warning label that says this product is known to contain chemicals that may cause cancer.
So even though cannabis is known to treat cancer, is known to, not proven to, but known to, because we can't do the right research. Every piece of cannabis has to have this label on it, or else you can be fined for not having this label. Again, punitive society.
And we got sued. We got sued for not having the labeling on our packaging, even though we did. So
they decided to put a lawsuit against 400...
800.
800...
They just went through Weed Maps and just sued everybody.
So they just did it just to try to scratch some money out of you.
Yeah, they said, we'll make this go away, pay us a settlement, and we'll make it go away.
Wow.
And this is what this person has done to hundreds and hundreds of businesses. That's how they make their living.
And she sued us in
That
2014.
It's like a patent troll.
Right.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
And
How
all
much
of our
did they
products
want?
have it on it. So we were sued without even one burden of proof because when we got it, we're like, look, everything has it on it.
So did they just say the lawsuit's invalid, or do
No,
you still
no.
have to go through with it?
No, we still got to go through it.
So did you go through with it?
We're filing right now, and after it's filed,
God.
then I've got to file a complaint with the bar and do all this bullshit because anybody can sue anybody now, and it's really, really hurts businesses. It hurts good people.
So how much did they want to settle?
About $20,000.
Oh my God!
So-
they're fucking criminals.
Yeah.
They're just stealing money from
Yeah.
people.
From dispensaries because they think they have it. But
Wow.
where they made their money is on. I mean, every place has to have it. If you walk into Target, you walk into Walmart, they all have to have this thing because anything that has plastics in it or anything.
Oh, I see that sign everywhere now. Once you get sued,
Yeah,
you're looking at everywhere.
You see it, and that's the law. You got to
Right.
have it posted. So
Just like you'll never hear the word lesbian in Vancouver again. The glory days are done. It won't happen.
Is that what he yelled? He just yelled
I don't
out
know.
lesbian?
Is that?
I don't know what he said. I don't remember what he said, but I've heard worse.
So
It's too litigious of our society.
Yeah,
it's too
well,
much.
you can't.
So
it's
big
not even our
companies-
society; it's their society.
Well, yeah.
bigger companies will just settle because
Yeah.
it's easier to just settle. But smaller companies, I guess they think because marijuana, you just have so much money. However, our tax burden is almost 70%. There's no real money in it when you're doing things by the book.
Right.
Yeah, they just passed another 15% sales tax on top of marijuana, y'all, in California. Just got passed this week through the Senate and the Assembly. The governor signs that. Another 15% tax is coming our way.
And that
Wow.
gets passed to the consumer.
Yeah. On top of the sales tax, on top of the city tax, on top of excise tax, and some of the cities and counties in California having another 10 or 15% on top of it.
They're also taxing the growers now. Also,
They
I
are.
heard.
Yes.
So they're taxing anything that has anything to do with what you get as a final product.
So, if that's the case, why would they be trying to stifle business? Wouldn't they want to promote business because business is going to give them more tax revenue?
This is the
it's the ultimate
California.
paradox.
It is.
And
It
it's
is.
because, and a lot of it is because of law enforcement unions, and not just them, but prison guard unions, and all these. There's a lot of unions that put pressure on different politicians to try to keep the laws in place
Sure.
or to make them even stricter, because they want more people to get arrested.
Privatized prisons,
But
subsidized prisons.
that is such a dark concept that this is something that we're really dealing with.
We really are, and the problem is the penalties for the users, like having a joint, are very small, but the penalties for the business for doing it the wrong way are huge. Like our business is being crushed right now over a stupid zoning suit. So there's this big gap between the business penalty and the consumer penalty, so that the business has no incentive really to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So because the consumer, you're going to go into a shop and ask them, hey, do you pay your people on the books? Can I see your compliancy packet? No, you just go $40 eighth. I love that OG. I'm buying it. So with all these taxes, that $40 eighth has got to go to $100. Are we going to pay that? Or are we just going to go and call our dealer or whoever that we've been using for 20 years?
So
Yeah.
it's just gonna make the black market even broader.
Well, that's an issue that they've had in Colorado for sure, but people are happy to pay the taxes because they like the fact that it's free. Like, the thing is free there. Like, you can go and you can buy pot. You don't have to have any kind of a license. You don't have to and you can just go do it, and it's working. So 39% is what they have to pay. Like, recreational and medical is much less, but people just pay it.
We're not happy about it, but regulation is what we want. We just want to follow. We just want the path to the way to do this
Right.
the correct way.
Just make it fair.
But see, what's going on in Denver should be the shining light for the rest of the states, because what they've done is they've made money. Like, they have so much fucking money from tax revenue. They made more money from tax revenue than they did from alcohol taxes.
Right. So last year, Colorado takes in $40 million in tax revenue from cannabis. California takes in $40 million in tax revenue from cannabis. We have 30 million people in this state compared to Colorado's got, 5-6 million? We're not collecting the taxes here. So if the companies are not following the rules as they stand, why are we throwing all these new rules at them and setting up these monopolies like here in LA with the monopoly, stifling good businesses? doesn't help us, and it doesn't help the consumer either.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Either. It's not like it would be dangerous. It's not like if you get more pot out there, it's going to flood the streets and the people are going to jump from the buildings.
It's actually less dangerous.
Yeah.
We've proven that, and again, that's why we're invited over and over to places like the Board of Equalization and to other places like Oakland. The city of Oakland wants to follow our delivery model. It's because the way we do things actually creates less crime, the less opportunity for crime, because it's just we're in your living room. We know who you are. You sent in your documents. We know you live at that address. We know you went to a doctor. We know everything matches. So no one's seeing you walk in or out of a place with a commodity that's more expensive than diamonds.
Right.
When you're looking at a dispensary, if people are walking in and out of there with duffel bags, what do you think's in those duffel bags? It's very easy for crime to happen because it's visible.
We've done over 200,000 deliveries, 0 assaults, 0 robberies, 0 complaints.
Knock on wood, bitch.
That's great.
Don't just let that go.
In a lot of rates.
That's an important stat, but it is because we are very thoughtful about how we go about.
Well, you treat it like a business.
Making sure the person is who they are. We do a Google search on every single patient. We turn down as many patients as we would take, maybe even more, just to make sure they are who they say, and that a background. Easy background check doesn't pull up anything that says we shouldn't work with someone like that.
Yeah, pedophiles apparently love weed too. But we don't love pedophiles, so we don't let them in our club.
Pedophiles also like milk. Like, what the fuck are we doing? So the connecting marijuana with crime is so stupid.
And there's no facts to back it up anymore.
It doesn't make any sense. It's just because some people who use it are criminals. That doesn't mean it's causing anything. So there's no rationale for any of this, and you're fighting against the idea of tax revenue. Like you're holding back revenue, because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are kind of on the fence. Like, man, I'd think about opening up a pot store, but fuck, what if Jeb Bush wins? There's a lot of people that think like that.
Yeah.
Well, those people are not going to go in. But if it becomes completely free and legal, the way a blue jeans store would be. Blue jeans, what am I, my grandma? But it was like that. I was just trying for a reference. But if that happens, the store's going to open up everywhere, and the money's going to be crazy. It's going to be a new economy.
Well,
it's really possible with all the people here.
Yeah, they'll still have to follow regulations.
Yeah.
It's already billions on the books.
Well, they should follow regulations, because I don't think this should be available to everybody. I think when you're young, especially, like this kind of fucking pot they have here in L.A., you imagine if you were a 6-year-old kid in Detroit and you got a hold of this shit?
Mm-hmm. No.
Woo!
No.
It's not. 6-year-olds are not ready for this.
They're not.
It's not. You should definitely come of age.
Yes.
I don't know what that age is. I think we would have to decide as a society how old someone should be before they start drinking. There's a lot of countries that let kids drink like responsibly with their parents when they're much younger than 21. And they have less incidence per capita of alcoholism than some of the countries that are more restrictive about it. So I don't know who's right or who's wrong.
I don't know. I know Americans, it's things that work other places, like we said before, don't work here. I remember going to Italy as a 16-year-old with school, and the first thing we did was run to like a bodega and buy beer because you could, because we're American kids and we're dicks, and you can have beer. So we didn't grow up responsibly, so we weren't acting responsibly. We'd have to shift the whole way our culture is to make those things work.
Right.
And I don't know how to do that, but I know that weed is the easy problem to solve. Alcohol is a demon that needs to be rooted out of our society.
See, I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
No,
I enjoy alcohol.
No, I do too, but I mean,
what the fuck then?
I mean, like when we start having the conversation, when people say, let's compare weed to alcohol, I start licking my chops, because when you compare it to alcohol, alcohol is poisonous. I dig drinking. I drink a lot, all the time. So I'm not saying get rid of it.
But you did say that, though. You just misspoke.
I misspoke. Okay. I don't mean pull it away.
No, I understand. I understand.
Let's not demonize marijuana compared to alcohol.
Right. No, well, alcohol definitely ruins more people. It's definitely way worse for your body. It's definitely much more dangerous as far as operating cars and behavior, the foolish things that people do when they're
Crime.
drinking. Yeah, all
Yep.
that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's directly attributable to alcohol, but so what?
So what?
You know, look,
We've survived for so long
Yeah.
with alcohol. It's the regulations have worked to at least to a manageable effect.
but here's what you can't do. You can't stop people from doing what they want to do. And,
Why should
and
you?
Yeah, exactly. And why is it that you can stop someone from doing that, but you can't stop them from practicing doing flips and BMX bikes?
Right.
You can't?
Right.
You know, is it because they're driving and injuring other people? Well, then take away their right to drive. You know, like that's how we have it set up. Though they're injuring people, they're getting in fights. Well, you lock them in jail.
Yep.
But the rest of the people, leave us alone.
Yeah, we should have the right to.
There's too many fucking laws.
Right, we can control our own consciousness. We can
Yes.
control what we put in our bodies.
And here's the most important concept. We're all just people. They're all just people too. Like you can call them the government, you can call them the police, you can call them the DEA. They're a bunch of fucking people. That's all they are. When you go behind some big crazy name like it's the FBI, open up. People go, oh shit, it's the FBI. If you go, it's Mike and Steve and Bob and we want to see what kind of plants you're growing.
Right.
Open up. Like, who the fuck are you guys?
Right.
You guys are just some fucking people. So when you write something down on paper, this is how archaic our world is. You write something down on paper that decrees power to these regular people. So these regular people all of a sudden have the right to fucking shitstorm your house, kick open your door, shoot your dog because you have a bag of pot hidden in your fucking bureau drawer. This is the world we've created.
It is.
This is the real world. It's
And more people get killed during those raids than pot would ever kill. That's for sure.
pot doesn't kill anybody. That's the most ridiculous thing
I think
about
the number's
it.
still 0, right?
Zero ever. Man, they would be parading it in front of us. Every now and then, like the Mirror in the UK or one of those fake newspapers will put, a young man dies on marijuana, first known case, but, you know, it's not true.
It's not true.
You can't. It's like, it doesn't kill you. It's
Yeah.
not toxic.
Yeah,
I mean, it might fuck your head up. It could fuck your head up.
but you should be allowed to make that choice
Yeah.
that I'm going to fuck my head up.
Yeah.
And if you're abusing it, then the people around you will help you or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever needs to be done.
Dude, just like Monster energy drinks. I know people who drink those things all day long. And look, I love the way those fucking things taste. And if you want to stay awake and you're like, fuck it, we're going in, that is the way to go. But you're not supposed to drink like 10 of them in a day.
No,
Right?
that dude needs an intervention.
I went to the
Some people are
hospital.
crazy. They'll drink 10 of those giant Red Bulls. The big Red Bull. You know when they started making Red Bull like a beer can now? Like a Bud Tall Boy? People drink those all day.
Mostly people that have alcohol problems that won't go to AA, they could switch to caffeine. So I
Yep.
know like 20 coffees a day for some of these guys.
Dude.
I went to the hospital because of those energy drinks from heart palpitations and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, man. Well, you know, they're great if you want one. You know, and Monster's probably actually like less caffeine than some
It's
of
not
them.
that bad.
I mean, the Monster's one of the better ones. They're the better tasting ones. The worst one that I ever tried, as far as like the jolt that it gives you, was that Red Line shit. You remember that?
Is it the one I went to the hospital was the Mountain Dew one? They don't even make that anymore. It was,
Right, it became illegal.
yeah, it became illegal.
Red Line is
What's Red Line?
scary. It was scary. It was
What,
a little
just-
can, and in that can was like 50 doses. Stupid. And you would down the whole thing. But it was. See if you can find it.
How safe are those 5-hour energy drinks? I
Oh,
tried
those are pretty safe.
I
Pretty
tried
safe. Those are pretty safe. Those are mostly vitamin B12.
Right.
They only have, I want to say like 70 milligrams of caffeine.
Like a cup of coffee.
Yeah, like a cup of coffee.
I
so
don't
they're,
feel
they're
the-
safe.
I don't feel the same drinking that as I do a Red Bull.
Really?
No, I like it. I
yeah.
think it's better.
Yeah.
I like those B12 drinks. I think B12 drinks are way better. Caffeine, 250 milligrams of caffeine. That doesn't seem like that much.
It
Maybe
doesn't.
they just
Well, that's
lying.
not an 8-ounce bottle either. That is it? I
It
guess
says
is.
it says per 8 fluid ounce bottle.
It was a small.
But how much is in coffee? Like, if coffee's 50 milligrams,
Maybe
and that's a lot.
I'm thinking of the wrong shit. I swear I thought it was Red Line. Maybe I'm just wrong about the sheer volume of caffeine in that thing. But I thought it was just like ridiculous. But anyway, I drank it, whatever it was. It was this one or the other one that's like it that I mistaked the name for. But I'm pretty sure it's this.
Starbucks.
And I remember thinking, dude, I am just way too jacked up right now.
Starbucks heavy caffeine.
Yeah, especially their cold brew. Sometimes I get the Trenta.
Hold
cold
the
brew.
fuck up. A 20 ounce?
Yeah, that's a Trenta. No, that's a Venti. I get the one above that. They don't even have the numbers for that.
But this
Yeah.
is saying a 20 ounce has 415 milligrams of caffeine.
I would be
Yeah.
in tachycardia.
Holy shit! Is that real?
Iced coffee's more, I believe.
Yo, look at this. Decaf has 30 milligrams.
Yeah. All decaf,
What the fuck is that?
Decaf always has a level.
Yeah, I know, but 30 milligrams? I thought it was like 5 or something. I thought it was like trace amounts.
See what the iced coffee is? I believe it's a lot more.
Really?
Yeah. I get the Trentas or usually.
How is that possible?
The cold brew. Cold brew 330. Well, I guess it's not more. But I get the Trenta version, so that's probably more.
Yeah, they can't keep serving you like that. They're gonna have to pull back.
See, that's the thing is I agree, but then my libertarian side doesn't agree. Like that,
Why do you think you should drink that shit all day if you want?
of course.
My friend Dave Foley used to drink pots of coffee. Pots. Like all day. He'd drink pots of coffee. He had to stop putting cream in because he realized he was drinking a quart of cream a day.
I think of that every time I pour cream in my coffee. I think of your stories telling me about that.
A quart of cream.
How much?
Just from coffee.
Yeah, I like that fresh, heavy cream in my coffee too,
That's
man.
what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, dog. Yeah, like a dark roast Hawaiian coffee with some heavy cream.
Talk slow. Talk
Yeah,
slow.
bitch. Oh, you motherfucker. You're going to make me feel good.
That's what Starbucks is now doing. That they're doing it with their cold brew coffee. They have like a heavy cream that's like caramel or something. They mix through it.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, it's the cigarettes and coffee thing are the staples of the alcoholics, right?
Yeah.
A lot of AA
Red
people
Bull.
enjoy those
Right.
cigarettes and they enjoy those coffees. But in
And
their
JJ's.
eyes, yeah, but in their eyes, they feel like they've got the alcohol part under wraps now because this stuff just kind of keeps them going, and this stuff is not ruining their life.
Right.
I get it.
A lot of alcoholics use cannabis the same way, and that's not really accepted by AA. So I know a lot of people who have kicked their alcoholism by moving more towards cannabis, but again, within the AA community, that they don't like that. That's still considered a drug. So,
But you can get addicted to anything, whether it's set porn or Big Macs or weed. You can get psychologically addicted to anything. But
Jamie, didn't the guy who created Alcoholics Anonymous, didn't he have positive experiences with LSD?
That'd be funny.
that would be
I feel
interesting.
like he did.
Acid's the only thing you're allowed to take, guys.
Well, I feel like that was something that happened, like maybe even after. Well, I don't want to speak out of school. Yeah, am I right? Yeah. So what the fuck?
well, that's why the government needs
Alcohol-
to lift testing on a lot of things, so we know.
Scroll that up, please. Alcoholics Anonymous founder believed LSD could cure alcoholism. Wow.
Well, you're seeing so much research now in psychedelics that clinics are opening up. There's a clinic in LA for ketamine,
Wow.
and you're seeing MDMA clinics opening
So
up.
look at this. What most of them do not realize is that the program's co-founder, Bill Wilson, credited the psychedelic drug LSD for alleviating his alcoholism and believed the drug could be used to treat others as well. Holy shit. So those friends of Bill, they didn't get all the information.
It's kind of like
You're
the
friends
mushrooms.
of Bill if you're in the Alcoholics Anonymous, right? That's what they call themselves? Like
Yeah.
friends of Bill, that's like the code?
Bill W.
But they didn't get that experience.
It's kind of like the mushrooms
Huh.
and quitting cigarettes.
Yeah,
But do you think they tell them?
I never heard this before today.
How could you not tell these people? Wilson first began experimenting with LSD in Los Angeles at the Veterans Administration back in 1956. But after taking his first hit of acid, he realized that it was not the aspect of terror that could help remedy alcoholism, but rather the insight one could attain from stepping into a world of simulated insanity. Whoa. Wilson believed that using the LSD could help the alcoholic discover a power greater than ourselves that, in turn, could restore us to sanity. However, he was adamant that using acid to combat the demons of alcoholism was not something that one could expect from a single dose. He's like, more research is required.
And snacks.
Wow. That's interesting, man. That's interesting.
Yeah, psychedelics, I think, as we experiment with them, like medically, are going to reveal some secrets
Okay,
to
but
our
this
consciousness.
guy's a heavy duty tripper as they're going further down. He was tripping with Aldous Huxley. Like this guy, this isn't like one experience he had. Interesting, there's documentation that indicates Wilson was involved with many supervised LSD trials, including some with psychologist Betty Eisner and Brave New World author Aldous Huxley, which led him to believe that the visions and insights given by LSD could create a large incentive, at least in a considerable number of people. Huh.
And
So this
Huxley
was-
was like a leader in psychedelics.
They left this out of the AA pamphlet.
How could they leave this out? That's crazy, because this seems like this had to play a major part in this guy's ability to kick alcohol.
Well, it seems like every major religion also left out the psychedelics that probably created them as well. So I think, you have. I think a lot of times you got to leave out the stuff that you think people aren't going to follow you for.
Wait a minute, you saying Alcoholics Anonymous is a religion?
Well,
Is that what you just said?
Cult.
You son of a bitch. I can't even believe you, Gino. I thought we were friends. That is really wild, man. That's really interesting stuff. But it totally makes sense that it could help you kick an addiction. That totally makes sense, because the stark contrast between being intoxicated on it and what it feels like to be normal, and this rethinking, like a reset button. That's what all the psychedelics provide that's like really beneficial. Besides being fun, they all provide that reset that takes you so far out of who you are right now that when you come back, you go, man, am I doing this the right way?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, now that I'm back to sober reality, do I need to refocus? Do I
The
need to
disconnection from your own ego.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
And you have the organization MAPS. You had the guy from MAPS on the podcast who's that does the psychedelic research. I forgot what.
Rick
MAPS,
Doblin?
Yes. So just recently, they got authorized from the federal government to start doing research on cannabis for the first time. The federal ban was lifted, and it was because of MAPS that they were able to get that. They were the first ones granted that federal research on cannabis. So it's in very similar ways. We need to do research on LSD. We need to do research on psilocybin, because there could be medical effects that, just like cannabis, we're just denying because of years of this is the way it was. They're bad.
Jamie,
Right.
put that back up. That quote about Bill. This is crazy. Look at this. It says, unfortunately, LSD made its way into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous simply because others in the hierarchy did not support it as a viable treatment. In fact, a document published in 1984 by Alcoholics Anonymous World Services in New York explained that the reason the program does not endorse the use of LSD as word of Bill's activity, this is all in quotes, as word of Bill's activities reached the fellowship, there were inevitable repercussions. Most AAs were violently opposed to his experimenting with a mind-altering substance. LSD was then totally unfamiliar, poorly researched, and entirely experimental, ... and Bill was taking it, end quote.
Like boner pills.
They were scared. They were all scared that this guy was tripping. That's hilarious. So they didn't want to include it, even though the founder of the program found it massively beneficial.
And it's almost ironic that if AA
He was
users...
trying to put it in there, and they kicked him out, basically.
Really?
Yeah, that's what this
Where's
is
this
right
up here? Oh, yeah.
He's getting a
look
lot
at
of
that.
resistance, so he had to step
He
down.
was chastised for his
Wow, that's hilarious. Isn't that crazy? Because Terrence McKenna attributed this quote to Timothy Leary, but Timothy Leary said he never said it. So nobody knows exactly who said it, but that LSD causes violent reactions to people who have never tried it.
What?
Well, that's
Yeah.
very interesting.
The people that haven't tried it are the ones that are freaking
right.
out.
I get it.
Not the
I
people
get it.
who were on it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think LSD, though, for real, can solve anything? I've done it maybe over 200 times, and
You might not
it's-
be the best example.
Wow.
Well, also, when you were taking it 200 times, a lot of that was recreational, not...
But I'm sure there was small little things that I was probably going through that I could have used LSD to help me. Like as an example, I took LSD once after a big breakup. Did it help me get through that breakup? No, it did nothing for my breakup. Or
Were you
in my
concentrating
feelings.
on it to try to use it that way, or that's the thing?
Yeah.
It's also gonna go with your own intention, probably.
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't work for you. It's not like, hey, Kate, clean up my life. I'm gonna take some acid. Just
Right.
No, you got to do the work yourself.
I just don't
like
see
it represents all these psychedelics, like the good experiences, the bad experiences, represent what's the state of mind when you go into them. That's why the people that take it like really seriously and they go through this all meditative ritual, and they'll do yoga and they'll do breathing exercises, and they'll set like a tone to whatever they would like to go into this experience with, and say that they're going into the experience open and humble, and say all these things out loud, and then they enter into the psychedelic trip. Like they do it that way because they want to set like an intention. If you just broke up with a girl and you take acid, you like really think acid's gonna fix anything because it didn't help me when I broke up with my girl. Like that's really what you're saying.
But you could also be like, hey, I want to quit smoking. Take acid, being like, what happened? Did you quit smoking? And like, and I focused on cigarettes, and then the whole place melted, and then my hand turned into a bunch of snakes. So no, I still want cigarettes.
But again, it's not you don't really want to quit. If you wanted to quit, you would just quit.
Right. But I don't think the acid has anything to do with
doesn't help you. It's not going to just decide for you. Like it depends on what's the intention that you go into taking any psychedelic, whether it's mushrooms or whatever. What's the intention that you go into this trip with? You can't think like acid doesn't work because it didn't help me quit smoking. Like you didn't help you quit smoking. Like these are decisions that you make.
Yeah, I just don't see how acid, unless it's really bad acid, that you'll remember anything except melty stuff and like walls melting and lizards. I just don't see any kind of help.
On a lesser level, do you feel like cannabis has changed your personality? Because that is something you might not go into saying, all right, I broke up with someone, I'm going to smoke weed for it. But throughout your lifetime, has cannabis had an effect on you that you feel like it's changed your personality?
I've been smoking since I was like 14, 15, so I don't even know what my personality was before. If anything, I think marijuana made me more paranoid and scared. I was more like freaked out and stuff. But as a medicine for like headaches, and I don't take almost any pills now. I don't have Tylenol in my house anymore. If I have a headache, I use weed. So for that, it has helped me tremendously. But personality-wise, probably not. It probably made me more paranoid and awful as a person when smoking it, because I get panicky. If I'm super stoned in a room of people, it's not helping me at all. It's making it worse, if anything.
What about you, Joe? You started later. You didn't start as a teenager. So do you feel like it's made a difference on who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it changes your perspective. It offers you some a different frequency of insight, I would say. I think that one of the things it's done that's good is it makes me consider things that I might not be thinking about, and it gives you it illuminates areas of your consciousness that maybe you weren't paying attention to.
It's made me a nicer guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of a type A high-strung guy, and like if there's an employee that I just want to strangle, I can take a hit of an OG and suddenly be like, you know what, he's all right.
Yeah.
He's had a hard day.
Exactly. Instead of accelerating that kind of behavior,
Right.
like shitty behavior, it definitely makes you more inclined towards fellowship and kindness. It's a really good chemical. It's a really good reaction that your mind has to this natural plant.
For creative reasons, 100%.
Yeah.
It definitely opens up a different pathway in your head.
I like it for everything. I like it for a lot of different things. I like it, but for creative reasons, it's one of the best things.
Yeah.
Sure. A lot of our celebrity patients that are, working in comedy or music or television or the movies, they want sativas specifically. So they're not down at all because sativas are more known for their creativity and things like that. So we find people who are working in the creative field, they want to smoke sativas, which is an important distinction between indicas and sativas. A lot of people don't know that different types of marijuana can affect you differently, and there are some people who are medicating for certain ailments. Well, they should smoke something that specifically works for those ailments. If you're smoking because you're looking for creativity, because you're looking for you don't want to lay on the couch and go to sleep, then you should smoke sativas. If you are looking for that, it's nighttime, I want to relax, time to go to bed, you should smoke indicas because that's going to bring you down and give you that body high with the CBD chemical that's inside it.
Yep, that's what I want. I'm like Brian. I get jumpy with the Steve. I get a little bit freaked out, a little paranoid.
Why don't you pussies move in together?
Hey.
I think we're neighbors, actually.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, we've all been too high. You know,
Yes.
everybody's been too high. You know, one of the it was like a famous scientist. It wasn't Carl Sagan. It was some other famous scientist. It was one of those theoretical mathematician guys who writes all that crazy scribble shit. He would just talk about how he likes one hit. That's what he likes to take. Just one hit. Just go for a walk. All these ideas would come to him. It's like, you don't have to get fucking blasted. Just one hit.
That's why I was so against it at first, is because I thought one hit made you really fucked up. Because that's how I saw Gino. But it turned out Gino would say, you were such a dick to me when I smoked weed in your house that I have to go outside, smoke a whole joint in 2 minutes, and come in and be a mess. So that was what I was exposed to, is I don't want any of that. I didn't realize you could just take one hit and just chill out and still work and still function. Nobody knows.
Yeah. And it makes people nicer. It definitely does.
It did
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, to say that, what are the medical effects? What are you treating yourself for? It's almost silly to say, because everyone else who's not really treating themselves for a cancer or something like that, they are getting mood regulation out of it. So even if you want to call it recreational smoking, you're still getting mood regulation out of it. And those people who smoke it almost daily or whatever, on whatever schedule they smoke it on, they might, if they didn't, they might be on Percocet. They might be on, you know, Wellbutrin. They might be on a million other drugs. So to say that recreational use is people just getting high, that's also not accepting that people are looking for mood regulation as a medical effect. You
Yeah, and we
gotta
already
still call
have
that
it. We already have it with coffee.
Yeah. Coffee,
yeah.
nicotine,
Yeah.
booze, that's all. It's
There's
all
a lot
medicinal.
of those. There's so many different things we already accept.
Sugar.
Yeah. Well, sugar's the scariest one.
Yeah.
That shit's everywhere once you start paying attention to it. But the idea is that you should be able to do whatever you want. If you want to eat candy bars all day, that should be completely up to you. And that's not where we are, you know. And the fact that's not where we are with one of the most beneficial plants the world's ever known, because that's really what it is. I mean, especially since its connection to hemp, it's the most beneficial plant the world's ever known,
Right.
and it's illegal. I mean, that doesn't show you how stupid people are. I mean, we're so goddamn goofy.
We are. And it's gonna get worse before it gets better, unfortunately.
You think?
Because the laws are such a mess right now.
Listen, Hillary Clinton's going to fix everything
jeez.
when she gets in office.
She's going to be great. She's
gonna
always been top shelf. It's going to be fine.
Well, who? Donald Trump? Is he going to fix it?
I don't think he cares.
Does he care?
I know he doesn't care. I know that for a fact.
Do you think he would legalize marijuana nationwide? I get a lot of stoners
what's-
switch gears.
No, what scares me is, what if he makes Chris Christie the Attorney General? That would be bad.
It would be hilarious.
Oh, it'd be so bad for my business, dude. That would be bad.
It'd be hilarious. That guy's not going to be the Attorney General.
If he's not the Attorney General, I'll take anybody, whoever you got.
So
Well,
foolish.
you
He's
know-
so foolish. His opinions on marijuana while consuming copious amounts of sugar in public, they're so ridiculous.
They're ridiculous.
He put a bag of M&Ms inside his M&Ms after he had stomach surgery. I mean, he's a crazy person. This guy's addicted to sugar, 100%.
Well, that's clear.
So no way you stay that big unless you're eating terrible. That's just it.
But he'll go with one thing is legal, one thing is not.
He's insane.
End of story.
He's an insane person.
But that's what we're fighting with the city.
But
This is the law. End of story.
Yeah.
Do you
And it's
think Bernie has no
crazy.
chance?
He can't even win the Democratic side anymore. He can't
Still
win.
voting for Gary, man. Gary Johnson.
Yeah, Gary Johnson is a better. It's almost it's a more likely vote than Bernie at this point. I just don't think like physically he can win. What could happen though is he and Hillary could team up, and they would be a formidable twosome.
That's so great if they
It'd
did.
be Hillary, and then he would be the vice president. That
That'd
could
be crazy
possible.
though. That's
But
so left.
if they said any nasty shit to each other, it's kind of that's where it gets
No.
like, you know, you gotta
They're not
gotta-
too bad.
You gotta curb your words when you're running.
Right.
You gotta make sure that you don't get too negative so that you could join forces.
Would they put a socialist on the ticket in the United States of America?
Well, he's a democratic socialist. It's not entirely like a socialist.
Well,
To beat Trump, I think they might do
It's
it.
tricky.
it's tricky.
It's tricky, but he does have the support of the youth. You know, he's got people fired up socially. You know, he sits down with people like Killer Mike and has long-term interviews. You know, he's interesting. He's interesting. He's different. He doesn't accept money from. I like a lot of what he stands for. I think
agree with half of it.
I like him way better than I like her. I'm not a big fan of the whole like long-term politicians. I'm not a big fan of those kind of people. It just seems like you just have too many compromises along the way. There's too much like weaving in and out of the system. And the more intertwined in the system, the more suspicious we should all be. She's way more intertwined in the system than he is.
Well, here's an example. Speedweed shut down by Proposition D, which was written by a lawyer who represents a bunch of dispensaries that are protected by Proposition D. Those are some dots. You can connect them. So an attorney writes a law that protects his clients and it gets passed. How does that happen? I don't know. But I know that career politicians don't make things better, you know, for us.
Yeah, they only do if it's the will of the people, and that's the only way they can stay in office. But usually it's not really just the will of the people. It's the people aren't really paying attention, but it's the will of these corporations. They get involved, they're donating money, and the people don't even know what the fuck is happening while it's happening.
That's right.
Well, that's what we have exactly going on here. You know,
there's a lot of those laws, right?
Yeah.
Well,
we're dealing with a lot of them.
You know, again, to say that, you know, a business had to be in operation before 2007 in order to be considered now, you know, now to be a viable business. Well, if you were in operation in 2007, you were in that Wild West category. So you were already skating that line. Do you want the players that were bad players involved, or do you want good companies that want to put in standard operating procedures that are looking for best practices? Why wouldn't you want companies like that? You know,
yeah, we just laid off 40 people that are now in unemployment. 40 good people that really can't get decent jobs anywhere, that were paid well above minimum wage, are now just laid off and going on the government dollar. Because
that sucks.
Because of this law that nobody knows about and nobody read.
You know, and for us, it came at a time where we were so excited about the future, working with the Board of Equalization. We were in our largest expansion at the time. We were going from the largest market, which was LA, to expanding throughout all of California, which we're still doing now, but we just now have to not include LA, which was our main base.
So in the law, what the law pertains to is you delivering things to people that live in homes because that home has not been cleared as a place to do business?
Because of the zoning law, only these 135 pre-ICOs are allowed to operate at all within the city. Nobody else can join the club. It's only that 135. And any marijuana vehicle is an extension of the marijuana business, so every car is zoned like a building.
So essentially they've limited the number of stores that can operate, the number of dispensaries. And you guys got pushed out because you didn't have you weren't grandfathered in.
Well, that's number one. But number two is our base, where our business is not in the city limits of LA. So by normal law for any other business, you follow the laws of the municipality you're in. We just convey through the streets of LA, and there's a law on the California books that says you can't stop someone if your business is not in one municipality and you drive to another municipality to deliver something. You can't stop that. So we're not even in LA, and we have to deal with this. We're outside the city of LA, because the city of LA encompasses Hollywood and a lot of LA, but there are places that people think are LA, like Beverly Hills or West Hollywood. Those aren't LA.
Well, our lawsuit says we're operating a sophisticated delivery company running about seven hubs out of the LA area. It's like, well, where are the addresses on the lawsuit? There are none, because we don't have any locations inside the city. We don't roll orders out of there. But it's not in the paperwork. Just
It's so goofy. This is what's the This is the scary problem with big government. This is the problem with government that just has too many regulations and too much red tape and too much bullshit. Stuff like this.
And there should be a balance of harm to our company that is trying to work within every regulation of California, working with the state to create them.
Well, let me ask you this: when is it going to be legal? Isn't it on the books to be
in November?
tried in November?
In November, yes.
Well, we have to organize. Like, this is an important thing for the future of mankind.
Well,
We have to.
It is.
This must be done.
And unfortunately, there's even infighting within the
Cannabis community?
industry. Yeah.
Well, you know what the problem that I ran into when we were talking about the first legalization vote? The growers didn't want it to be legal because they would make less money.
Of course.
The guys who are growing illegally, and I was like, wow. And he's like, hey man, I'm just telling you the truth. I was
But
like, wow.
we're at a point now that if we don't do that, they're going to get pushed out anyway
Right.
by bigger corporations
Yeah.
that will come in and be able to pay millions of dollars for licensing and buildings and things like that.
People are greedy and they're short-sighted. You can't be greedy and you can't be short-sighted. You can't. This is a global issue, and in these environments where these people are saying we're gonna make less money, bullshit. Expand. It's gonna be legal now, dummy.
Right.
Like, yeah, you're gonna have competition. So fucking
So
what?
what?
If you're making money, why do you care if other people are making money? Why are you concentrating on that? Just enjoy life. You're gonna have a bunch of pothead millionaires around you.
Right. And, along those lines, as we were cultivating for our own patient base, we follow the California, the laws for California to cultivate. Once local licensing started becoming possible for cultivation, it wasn't before the governor signed this bill last year. Now it's becoming possible. We went out and we're now participating with Desert Hot Springs for a legal cultivation. So it's going to be a place where the police could come in, the government could come in, inspect it. So we're moving forward with full legalization on cultivation as well. Paying everything you got to pay for, making sure that when you build your building, it's built to the right specs. Again, the government's involved in every part of it. So, again, we're moving forward with the regulations, even though it's going to cost us a lot of money. The investment team that's behind it has already put $2 million in just to buy the property. So it's going to cost a lot of money, and you're not going to make the money, millions of dollars that you're hoping for, but at least you're doing it in a way that can be regulated and you can open up your doors and not hide, because we don't want to hide. Everything we've ever done, we haven't hidden. We've said everything in the media. Hey, we're following regulations. We're trying to do everything the right way. We're paying the taxes we have to pay. We're working.
Well, that's why we got sued, is because if you sue Speedweed, that gets your name in the paper. You sue the delivery, one of the other 400 delivery services that you can find operating right now today that are illegal. That's not going to get your name in the paper in an election year. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but all of the facts in our case are dated 2014. We got served in 2016. I don't know, is this a special year to politicians? Maybe it's a special year.
Okay, so hold on for a second. So there are certain delivery companies that are allowed to operate inside LA.
No, nobody's
None.
allowed.
No one.
But
now.
they are.
But they are.
But they do anyway.
Over 400.
They do 400 illegal ones.
Yeah.
Shh.
Oh, they're all
Dude, this
illegal.
is a podcast.
I know.
Golden snitches.
So we're going to start doing overnight delivery with medical couriers to the entire state. So Speedweed will deliver to anywhere in California that's allowed, not inside the city limits of LA, but outside the city limits. You're in Fresno, you're in Sacramento, wherever you are.
Could a patient meet you at the border? Could you get like a taco stand at the border and you make a handoff?
Certain patients, maybe.
Burbank in LA?
Burbank is
Burbank
not
is
now.
not in LA.
Oh, so I can still get delivery?
You could until they tell the delivery services to stop.
Yeah.
But Burbank does not like the industry, just
Right.
like Glendale and Pasadena do not like the industry.
Why is that?
It's the propaganda machine, and it's law enforcement shows up at the city hall and starts screaming about, if you have dispensaries, you're going to have crime. Delivery is going to be a lot of cash and product in the cars. You're bringing crime, and they frighten the city council and the people that vote into saying, all right, so we don't want it here. So
Right.
let it happen in Echo Park where the hippies live. We're here in Burbank with the studios. We don't want it in
You'd think
our
the
town.
studios would want it because so many of the actors are probably like,
They
give me
do.
weed, I need it delivered.
They
you
do.
know?
They do. We've delivered on movie sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course they do. Everybody
some
does.
of those roles that people play, you probably have to be
Yeah.
high as fuck to do it, right? I wonder if Daniel Day-Lewis smokes weed.
Fuck yeah, he does.
We can't talk about privacy of certain patients, but
What are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm saying a lot of the actors you would think are smoking weed while they're acting. They are.
Interesting.
Of course they are.
Yeah, I know several. We don't have to name names, but I know a lot of people get super high as fuck right before they do a scene.
Sure.
Kind of makes sense.
I mean, you've introduced me to some, so certainly, you know. And they're just as many that you would never suspect that guy is an everyday smoker, and they are. And that's because, there's still stigma. And when you're living in a public life, you need privacy. And that's one of the reasons you need delivery, because some of my patient bases, if they walked into a dispensary, they're going to lose endorsements and sponsor money because they're on family shows, things like that. Well, how is that fair to them? They need their medication. They need safe access to their medication. They can't.
You're saying it all grand, dude. They're trying to get high. Just settle the fuck down.
I know.
They need their medication. They're dying.
We have
It's anti-venom.
We have to protect
Get it to him quickly.
Our Disney kids.
The poison of society is seeped deep into his veins.
Joe, have you been to Denver yet since the league?
I was just there like 4 months ago, 5 months ago, something like that.
So just walking down the street, just walking to anything.
Pot places everywhere. They're all over the place. It's like Amsterdam. It's like some weird new American Amsterdam. And there's so much money. Real estate prices are skyrocketing. Real estate prices are up like 19%.
How's the prices? Like let's just say like a joint in Denver. Or do you have any idea?
It's more expensive than it is here, and they do have different pricing for medical as they do for recreational.
We went over that with taxes. It's 39% taxes versus I think like 9%.
Right. Yeah. However, I've been there plenty of times, and the weed here in Southern California is still the
better?
best that I've seen in the world.
How is that possible? It seems like Denver would have the best climate.
Everybody
It is.
needs to fucking relax on this big dick measuring competition between states and their weed.
Well,
we were in Pittsburgh. No, we were in Philly, and we got high with this dude at a radio station. Gave us a joint, and we were like, some Philly weed. I'll just smoke the fuck out of this Philly weed. This ain't gonna do shit. And like 20 minutes later, we were like, dude, we made a mistake. Philly weed is legit.
I think there's an answer to that, though, is that the best weed in Colorado is still black market.
Okay, maybe, but come on,
Philly
man.
was illegal. You
this
guys were
stuff is so fucking strong. You guys are crazy talk. You're talking for the deepest of the deep and the deep end of the pool. That's what you're talking. All the pot, whether it's Colorado or California, will put you on fucking Pluto. All of it.
No doubt.
And the difference between 2 hits of Colorado pot and 2 hits of California pot is if you can measure that, write a book.
Joey Diaz.
And it's the
Really?
joint you had. Like, what if you had
Yeah.
like 3 joints? Those were just the 3 shittiest joints in Colorado.
I don't buy it. That Colorado. I was in Colorado. I had some of their weed.
I'll be there Thursday.
It's fucking ridiculous. It's like, whoa, it's super weed. It's all the same shit. All these strains have gotten everywhere.
Yeah.
They're all over the country. They have this shit in New York now.
Yeah.
Does the weed? Do you get higher because of the elevation for weed?
Yeah, you have no air.
So it's probably just shitty weed.
No. The alcohol gets you drunker too.
Yeah.
That's a big one. But it's just good. Weed's great. It's everywhere.
It's because of social media. It's becoming to a point where you just can't deny it. I thought we were already there. We're very close to it. And as politicians get older and pushed out, and younger politicians get in, the toothpaste is out of the tube. It's not going backwards. So, for LA to be behind the times of the rest of the state, and for California, the most progressive state in the country, to be behind the times of states like Colorado and Alaska, who are making tax money.
It's the money and the politics is too intertwined. It's part of the fabric of our society, and it's broken.
Yeah, it is. And hopefully it's going to be eventually pushed out. But right now, you have to deal with one of the most ridiculous examples of it, which is marijuana. It's one of the most ridiculous examples of all sorts of problems that I'm sure all sorts of businesses run into all across the country that we don't consider because it doesn't play a part in our lives. But this one does, and this one is really a nationwide freedom issue. I mean, that's really what a lot of it's about. It's a freedom of consciousness issue. And people don't look at it like that. They look at it like it's law enforcement, it's this, it's crime, it's this, it's children, it's this. No, it's not what it is. It's a freedom of social consciousness. It's a freedom of being able to express yourself, and a freedom of being able to intoxicate yourself with a natural plant, and then what comes out of that. And that's what everybody was worried about more than anything in like the 1970s. What they were worried about in the 60s and the 70s is what was coming out of this. They weren't worried about the consequences of taking this drug. They were worried about what's coming out of this. You're getting all these people that just won't tolerate all the usual standard shit because they're constantly resetting themselves and then reconsidering their environment. And they're coming out with this whole new movement of people, like all the Haight-Ashbury shit in the 60s and, you know, all the music of the time. So much of that had to do with pot, and so much of that had to do with LSD.
Sure.
They were just terrified of that shit.
They were. When we talk about the war on drugs and people like blame Nancy Reagan, that started with Nixon.
Yeah.
You know, in the late 60s or early 70s.
Well,
And
now the new stuff has come out. I'm sure you've seen it, where they're saying that the Nixon administration purposely targeted marijuana because they were really going after the civil rights leaders and the
Yes.
people that were anti-war movement.
Yes.
So they would arrest them through pot, and that would be the back door to just break up these organizations. And that this was a strategy they had.
To the point that they asked universities to pull cannabis information that was positive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Yeah, they funded studies trying to find things wrong with pot, and all they found was good shit.
Right.
You know?
The Donald Tashkin study is one that I love, where that study was to find the connection between lung cancer and smoking cannabis, and it turned out he could find no connection, and actually showed that there could be a protective effect of cannabis.
That's how I'm still alive.
That's it.
Maybe a lot of people like you that smoke cigarettes and smoke pot. It
Yeah.
might actually like even it.
Yeah, started the
in
same
some,
time.
Help it some way.
I have a patient with double lung transplant. He had fiber
Myalgia?
So he has double lung transplant. We were doing an interview with a magazine, and I had him there, and he showed, I take these 45 pills a day for you know, what I have, or I could eat these 3 edibles. And he's like, 45 pills a day, it's crazy just trying to swallow them. But he said, these cost me thousands of dollars. However, I don't pay for them because it's paid by insurance. These, I pay almost $45, $50 a day in edibles, and I could just eat those instead. However, none of this is paid for, and I don't have the money to pay $50 a day for my medication. So he's one of the patients that we help out with free product, and you know, because he can't afford to live.
That's the pharmaceutical side of this conversation. Is just that's a whole nother side of it.
It's very nice of you to give that to him, by the way.
Yeah.
But hearing that he's eating $45 worth of edibles a day makes me want to shit my pants.
That's
It's
scary.
like, what kind of a tornado of consciousness is this guy flying around in all day? How many milligrams are we talking? For $45 worth of weed, how many milligrams is this motherfucker taking in?
Yeah.
You know,
Dude, you
and
have no lungs. You take whatever you need to do to get through
Well,
that day.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I'm thinking $45 worth of Chiba Chews would put you in another dimension.
yeah,
right?
sure, yeah.
Come on, son.
There's a shit hacky sack.
You know, we're talking somewhere around 500 milligrams a day. So it's not tremendous. I mean, I've seen Joey Diaz eat 1,000 at a time.
That's insane.
But if he's getting Chiba Chews, like Chiba Chews, which are like a really potent and easy way to get them.
Yeah.
$45 is not 500 milligrams. You can get one 500 milligram one for a lot less than that, right?
For
How much do those
10,
cost?
$15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if this guy's spending $45 and he's buying the good shit, Jesus Louises, he might be on a 500 milligram Chiba Chew a day diet. I want to meet this dude and shake his hand.
That's a
He's a
planet.
pioneer.
He's
I
got
can't live in that world.
That's a good man.
That's
It's
a lot
good
of
man
sugar,
to know.
probably, also.
Oh, whatever. Don't be a pussy. All of a sudden, you're worried about sugar. This fucking guy's living in an alternate dimension. He's looking at us through a fucking aquarium window. Like he's not even here. If he's eating that much pot, you're talking about that many milligrams, and then it's getting processed. So you got to think about it way stronger than just smoking it, right?
It is. I mean, I had a bad edibles trip, and I went 5 years without even touching it. Even though we had them on the menu, I was like, dude, I won't even want to smell one of those Tootsie Rolls or whatever the hell it is. I don't want nothing to do with it. Because I was in another place for like 2 days high.
Yeah.
Just going, when is it going to end?
I mean, we started as an edibles company before we were Speedweed, and we were the first company to do gummy bears. And when we were making them, my brother, my partner with his wife Jen also, AJ figured out a way to extract THC from weed. This is 6 years ago, before anyone was doing it, because we had a failed crop. Because when I moved to California, we got our cards. I said, I'm just going to throw up a grow, and now I'm allowed to grow here. I'll make a few.
I'm going to throw up a grow.
I never heard that.
I need to start saying shit like that.
Yeah.
Get together with my friends.
So
man, I'll throw up a grow.
AJ said, that's great. Where are we going to do it? I said, I'm going to do it in your living room. So I took over his living room with tents, and I put up a grow, and it didn't. And since I was going back and forth to New York selling my house every 2 weeks, he was watching it while I was gone. Well,
It was a disaster. It was the worst experience, growing pot with all of our money. And I'm on the phone with Gino going, the leaves are yellow. He's like, all right, are the veins red? I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about. It needs more
you
nitrogen.
irresponsible motherfucker.
Right.
You can't just leave this dude with your plants.
No, he's like, go get more nitrogen. I'm like,
Watch
how do
my
I get
baby
nitrogen?
for me. Take my baby. Just feed it when it cries.
so I got back from a trip late into my growth cycle, and I opened it up, and you see webs. Well, those aren't spiders; those are spider mites.
Yeah,
and that's the worst thing you could ever get.
I grew in Ohio, lost my whole entire crop, spent like months growing this, was scared of helicopters with the heat-seeking thing, and mites destroyed them.
All our money was sunk into this. All of 4 months' time to make it happen, and I was just defeated. I was like, I can't believe it. What are we going to do? And so we had to fight those spider mites. We did everything we could, including buying 10,000 ladybugs, which eat these things, and releasing them in this tent a foot from where I'm sleeping on his couch.
I bought them on Amazon.
Yeah,
I bought like a zillion ladybugs on Amazon, and we just released them into my living room.
Yeah, we buy them all the time.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
I have a bunch of different plants that I grow, so we buy ladybugs.
Yeah, and they worked, but they didn't exactly
cool.
work fast enough, and they were dying because we
weird.
had CO2, and so we had to get predator mites, which were other little creepy crawly things that we had to release right where I was sleeping. So we released those.
Jurassic Park.
It's exactly what it was. It was
Seriously,
like,
if you could look at it under a microscope, it would be like some sort of a fucking Starship Troopers.
That's what it
was.
looked like.
Is that what they were?
The Lord of the Rings. Things were
Yeah.
flying down, eating each other. Things were climbing up, and they were like.
And so what happened? What's the long story?
So we got rid of them and had bad weed. We extracted it. AJ read some papers online. We extracted it. I said, what are we going to do with this? And we said, all right, let's make some edibles. So his wife.
So hold on. It's bad weed.
Bad weed. Couldn't
So
sell it
you
anywhere.
can't sell it because you can't smoke it.
Yeah.
But you
that-
can
No.
still turn it into edibles?
It looked like shit out of a litter box. It was it was garbage. But Gino's like, fuck it, I'm smoking it.
Well, but I'm confused. Explain, like, why did it look bad? Because the mites chewed it up? Like, what?
Yeah. It was
ladybug wings.
Here's
and-
the thing.
Really?
Yeah.
So there's also things called neem oil, which is a natural pesticide that also helps in killing these things. However, in a grow cycle, you shouldn't use it near the end because then it's going to be on the flowers that you have to smoke.
Right.
However, if you extract the THC out of it, it's no longer on that plant material. You're getting rid of the plant material. The neem oil that's on it, it won't translate into an extraction.
Oh, okay. So you used the pesticide, unfortunately, late in the cycle, and it
Right.
made the pot bad to smoke,
Right.
but you can still extract the
Yeah.
THC from it.
Right.
Right, it's a natural oil. It works as a pesticide, though.
Okay, I was so baffled. I was like, how is it bad weed and then it's good weed?
Bad weed, good gummy bears.
Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
So I started going to.
What is the process of extracting THC from the flowers?
It's like Breaking Bad.
Is it?
Yeah, my kitchen looked like a meth lab for like 3 months. It's crazy. We had a sock slit extractor.
So you had to. Have you done this before? Or were you experimenting? Did you watch a YouTube video?
I had no idea it even existed.
I found a paper from like 1976, or UCLA scientists, that multi-solvent extraction of cannabinoids. You can find it online. And I was like, and it was like, this is a how-to manual on how to do extraction.
Okay, hold on. Neither one of you guys are scientists,
We
right?
were technology guys.
Okay, you're not a scientist, right?
I
You're
got
not
very
a scientist, right?
No, I'm techie.
Have
I'm
you
good
ever
at
done
I'm good
any-
at homework.
Had you ever done any chemical work like that, using solvents and extracting elements from plants?
Not professionally.
AJ's humble. He's
Okay.
he's a member of Mensa. I got very blessed to have a brother who's so very intelligent. So I was just defeated. I got a bad crop. I wasted all our money. I wasted our time. He turned lemons into lemonade because luckily he's smart enough to say, what else can we do with this? And he went
Right.
out and found a way for us to utilize
So
it.
did you practice, or did you just dive right in?
No,
How did you do this?
It was like a 6-week R&D process. So we did the extraction with all kinds of different chemicals.
Right.
And ultimately, ethanol worked really well. And then every night at 11, I would give Gino a dose, like on a cookie or something at 11, and then I would wait 45
Did you
minutes.
have him
and
locked up in your basement too?
He was in my
Every
pretty
night,
much.
I would give him a give.
Get 11 o'clock.
Give Gino food.
It rubs the lotion on his skin every night. And then finally one day, I give Gino the dose. 11:45, I say, how you feeling? He goes, I don't think it's working. I was like, boom, that's it. That's the recipe, and it's in my journal. And that was kind of how we got into the industry, was with that extraction process, that recipe that day.
Now, I've always wondered like this: when you use all those chemicals and you extract something from a plant, are those chemicals in any way? Is there a residue on the extraction?
Depends. We were using ethanol, which is alcohol, but then
Right.
we were making candy, which burns off the alcohol. So then there's no alcohol in the candy, but now you have the THC, which is inside the candy. And now we were decarboxylating the flour before anybody was doing that. And what that means is you activate the flour. Like, you can't just take bud and eat it and get stoned. It won't work.
Right.
But if you
Why is that?
because you need to
Something fat soluble.
Yes,
Right?
you need to convert it to THC acid. So you do that with heat, so you smoke it, or you do that with fat, like lipids. You boil it in butter, make brownies. So
How the fuck did people figure that out?
it's brilliant. It's genius. Or you could do it with alcohol, and that's ultimately what we used was alcohol extract. Butane works as well.
Well, what I mean is, how the fuck did people figure out that you had to burn it in order to use it? Because they're probably eating it long before they knew it could get you high,
Well, I mean,
right?
Civilization's amazing. Like, how did they figure out if we eat this root, ayahuasca works, but otherwise,
Wow.
no,
The trees
it doesn't.
Right.
You know,
The trees told us.
right?
That's
It's
another
probably
thing.
true.
They use tobacco in those ayahuasca rituals, apparently. Right before you go under, they blow tobacco smoke on your face. And
Oh, just to get you ready to vomit.
yeah, well, I don't even
more.
know if it's that. I think it's the stimulating effect of the nicotine. Has some sort of a kickstart. Like Terrence McKenna, when he would take mushrooms, what he would do is he would take them and then he would wait. They kick in like an hour or so. So while he was waiting for them to kick in, he would just roll joints. This motherfucker would roll joints for an hour, and then
That's his set.
start going. And when the pot really kicked in, like when he would get really, really high, that would be right when the mushrooms would come in like a giant tidal wave. And he said he could see it coming. He could see it coming. You could feel it in the ground. And it seemed like there's no way no one else is experiencing this. It's just like this gigantic wave is coming, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And that's how he would do it. So he would use marijuana smoke to sort of instigate the mushroom experience, which totally makes sense.
It does, but that's a warrior that it will do that kind of experimentation.
That dude went deep.
He went deep.
He went deep, maybe too much. He died of a brain cancer, brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows if that was hereditary? Who knows if that was, it related in any way to expanding consciousness or attempting to expand consciousness through drugs? Most likely not, especially. But he was really critical of the idea that marijuana was a cure for cancer, because he was like, look, I am telling you I have cancer and I smoke pot all day, constantly. He's like, I am your poster boy, because if it was something that cured cancer, I would not have cancer, because you cannot smoke more pot than me. Like McKenna was just high all day.
Right. But there's so many different cancers and so many different types of weed. Who knows what's what? We got to research it.
Well, I think what's really supposed to be the most effective, and Gino, you helped my friend when his mom had an issue with this, and this is something about Gino who'd never advertised himself, but he hooked my friend up with a lot of this cannabis oil, which is really expensive stuff, and you did it just to help his mom, or just to help his dad, rather.
Well, he was a good dude.
And we were talking about stage 4 cancer at that point. So there wasn't much ever hope that it was going to turn around and cure it. However, to ease the last few months of life, was working and happening. There was a lot more quality of life, which for the patient that was great. Number one, the absolute utmost importance. But also for our friend that we're talking about, it was great for him because he got the last few months of life together with his loved one in a better way, not in a comatose setting, which he was dealing with for a while before we got on the Rick Simpson oil regimen.
Well, it definitely needs to be investigated because there's so many people that have had beneficial effects from it. It just seems insane to not have some large-scale scientific research being done right now. Like just humanity as a whole, like we kind of owe it to each other. Like if you're not thinking about it right now because your loved ones don't have cancer, but if this turns out to be really legit, this could be another reason why we need to reconsider this whole ban on the legal sale federally of marijuana. It's ridiculous. If it can do this, if you're really taking this oil and you're reducing tumors, which has been reported in just a shitload of people, including friends of mine. I know people that have had cancer and had their cancer reduced by taking cannabis oil. And I know people whose parents had it and got their tumors reduced because of it.
And autistic kids, like the seizures and stuff like that.
Like our friend whose kid was going from he was having seizures all day. He takes the stuff, he hasn't had a seizure in 6 months.
Sure.
Yeah.
You look at Jaden and Charlotte and all these kids. How can you tell the parents no?
Exactly.
No matter what state you're in, how can you tell a parent no? And I think that's when your politics changes, when it affects you personally.
It definitely happens. And I've seen quite a few stories of that, of people that have children that had serious seizure issues, and as soon as they got them on the medical marijuana, it just stopped. And we have a lot of really bad prejudices about marijuana. And we need to expose them as a society because they're holding a lot of people back. I know they held me back. They made me, until I was 30 years old, I thought pot was for idiots.
So
I really did. A lot of people do. And it's important to let them know, not only is it not for idiots, it's a tool. You can use it. It can benefit you. This is not a benign substance. It's slippery. Like all other psychoactive substances, if you are on the wrong path mentally, you could go off the deep end with it. Like everything else, like alcohol or anything else. But
you see someone who I respect a lot, like Graham Hancock, who you had on the show a lot. He was a heavy user, and he got to a point where he said, you know what? My relationship is not good with marijuana anymore. And he took a long break, I think 2 to 3 years. He took a long break and then said, you know what? Things have changed in my life now. I think I could go back and have that relationship start again. And from what I understand, mostly from the podcast, from him being on the podcast last time, he is now in a better relationship with marijuana.
Yeah, he was in an abusive relationship with himself, and marijuana was just playing a factor in that.
Sure.
I'm the one who got him high.
Yeah.
I got him high on the show when he was
who was it?
like 2 or 3 years sober. I'm like, dude, you're fine. Just come on.
Yeah, you're the smartest dude ever.
He loved it. Mm-hmm. And he opened up when I gave it to him. Oh my God, he opened up like a flower. He took one hit and then he relaxed and he was smiling and laughing and we were having a good time. And he went on this rant. Oh my God, this epic rant. And I remember thinking wow, that had to be cannabis inspired because it was so emotionally connected to him. It was essentially sort of validating his life work because he was really heavily criticized many, many times where people just completely ignored any of the potentially positive aspects of what he was saying and just was trying to shit on all of his theories. But as time has gone on, it's been more and more apparent that he was right the whole time.
About all different things that he studies.
Yeah. Well, the big one being that civilizations have experienced many different eras, and that what we're looking at when we look back thousands and thousands of years is the most latest of eras. But there was potentially very advanced civilizations that had a different kind of advancement 10,000, 15,000 years, maybe even as many as 30,000 years ago. And that there's evidence of this stuff. There's evidence in the construction of the Old Kingdom in Egypt. There's evidence when they start looking at certain erosion patterns on the Sphinx and
Sure.
like the Sphinx compound. Like they're talking about like something that was built 14,000 years ago plus. So all these different new discoveries that they're having, when they're having these new, they find these new things that are like, they found evidence of North Americans in Native Americans in North America at 14,000 years ago, which pushes it way back before they thought it was.
Right.
They found like woolly mammoth bones with cuts on them and
Yeah.
shit super recently. So this stuff keeps happening over and over again, and they keep discovering these structures, and they find things underwater. They find like sunken cities and shit.
Gobekli Tepe in
yeah,
Turkey.
Yeah.
exactly.
And you can't carbon date stone. So,
Well, that's why Gobekli Tepe is so unique, because they know that it was covered up somewhere around 12,000 years ago.
Purposely.
Yeah,
Right.
that someone constructed this thing sometime before that. They get a vague idea within 1,000 years of when this thing was built, and it was built when they thought people were hunter-gatherers. So this is all stuff that Hancock had already been saying. So to see him get high and just expand upon that, and see, like, this is a guy that, like, he's been ridiculed, he's been dragged through the mud. People have taken what he's said out of context and tried to use it against him. They've had these really biased opinions about his work, and they've made little specials about it, just shitting on him. And it turns out he was right about a lot of things.
yeah.
And
And
he's
it's-
just gathering evidence and making his thoughts and processes
Yes.
on evidence.
And he's a really good guy. Like, he doesn't deserve any of that. He's not a bad guy. Like, he's a really good guy that's taking a chance, that's exploring this really important subject. This idea that we've been here many times.
I
And
can
that-
remember reading maybe it was Magicians of the Gods or Fingerprints, his first one, thinking.
I think it's Footprints of the Gods, right? Was it Fingerprints? No, Fingerprints.
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 Thinking, thank God there's a dude out there. I didn't know who he was at the time. Thank God there's someone doing this work, because I had never heard of any of this
Yeah.
before I read that book.
Well, there's been a bunch of similar like theorists in the past, but they always connected it to like aliens, like specifically
The
like
Zechariah Hitchens,
Sitchin
stuff.
Yeah,
and-
well, he had. I was going to bring up that guy from the Chariots of the Gods. What the fuck is that guy's name? There was a dude, Von Daniken.
Yeah, Von Daniken.
Yeah, Von Daniken, who wrote Chariots of the Gods. And Chariots of the Gods was like a movie. They made a documentary movie about it that played in like the movie theaters. I remember when I was a kid, it was playing in the movie theaters, and I was freaking out. Like, and people would leave there, they'd go, "Oh my God, there's aliens! They visited us!" Like that movie. If you watch that movie and you smoke pot and you're young, it will have you fucking convinced. You will be fucking convinced. 100%.
I feel like I was convinced, and it's a lot of Graham Hancock who unconvinced me by. Because a lot of people think he's part of the ancient aliens theorists, but he's not really. He just feels that we have lost technology.
Well, he leaves the door open. We've had conversations about it. He leaves the door open for visitation. He leaves the door open for that being a possibility, as do I, as I think everybody should. A unique moment where an alien spacecraft came down and ran into 14th century Europeans and fucked with them, and and kidnapped a few and did some scientific experiments on some and erased their memories. That of course that could happen. I mean, if we can go to Mars, we can send a robot to zoom around on Mars and we watch it on our iPhone. We can
Right.
do that right now. We're
Right.
idiots. We're idiots. We can't even make pot legal. We got a robot moving around on Mars. The idea that there's something out there there's no way, no one's smarter than us, dude. It can't happen. Like, of course could be. If we stay alive for 1,000 years, our technology is going to be unrecognizable. It's going to be so beyond anything we could possibly imagine today.
Just look at how far it's come
Yeah.
since like we were kids growing up in the
Yeah.
80s.
These things that we see, these things that everybody sees, these iconic gray creatures with the big black eyes, those could be drones.
They could be.
100%. I mean, those could be artificially intelligent creatures that some super advanced civilization has created to gather up information on people. That's totally possible. And that would make it so much easier for them to defy the laws of physics, defy the laws, not the laws of physics, right, but the laws of space travel, like with human beings being unable to withstand the kind of pressure that it would require to go light speed and shit like that.
Right.
If these things are some fucking weird robot creation that doesn't even, lives off of a lithium-ion battery it's got in its dick, that thing might be able to go forever. Like, radiation might not not bother it. You might be able to shoot it into a fucking black hole and it comes out the other side. I mean, who knows what the fuck they can do a million years from now.
Right, because an avatar is just a robot.
Yeah.
And we all know robots at this point can be controlled from a remote control.
Yeah.
So it just depends how far away is that remote control. Where is that remote control?
So the Chariots of the Gods guy and even the people, the Ancient Aliens guys, who the fuck knows? There might have been a bunch of visitors. It's very possible. It's super possible. If we can do it, of course, something out there that's smarter than us can do it better than we could, for sure.
Of course.
But what Graham Hancock is proposing is much more likely because it's backed by actual science. And now that he's joined efforts with that Randall Carlson guy, and Randall Carlson, who's an expert on asteroidal impacts, and it's the history of them in North America, in the world. I mean, he's a wizard when it comes to that stuff, and he can just quote it off the top of his head, all these different impact sites that they found. And you realize, like, oh, Jesus, we get hit all the time. And not only do we get hit all the time, there's evidence of a massive meteor shower impacting Asia and Europe somewhere around 10,000 plus years ago.
Which coincides with the civilization that they're talking about.
Yeah. So somewhere around that era, the human race got fucking basically half wiped out.
Yeah.
And then we had to rebuild, and we don't remember. We didn't have... There's no electronics back then, so there's no like computers that we could look at. There's no photos. They didn't have photographs. So they were just basing on people's memories and things that they could draw. I mean, as far as we know, they didn't have any cameras. I mean, who knows? I mean, all that stuff, if you had a camera and you left it on the ground for 1,000 years, there'd be nothing left in 100.
Right.
They
It
had
would all go
batteries.
away.
They had batteries back then.
They had something like a battery.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah, and they found that in one of the Egyptian tombs, right? They found it in Iraq, too.
Yep,
Yeah.
the little copper in the clay.
They
Yeah,
probably
they
had some kind of computer or electronics that just doesn't exist anymore.
Well, not only that, the people who made that battery, they're pretty sure that was 2,500 BC. So that was way later than this impact they're talking about, this 11,000 whatever it was year impact. They think that there's been a series of these all throughout history. And this is something that's supported by even mainstream science when they're talking about supervolcanoes. There's this one supervolcano. We've looked this up 3 fucking times and I can never remember this goddamn Gino AJ Speedweed bullshit. But there's a supervolcano that erupted 70,000 years ago and killed almost everyone on the planet except for a couple thousand people. And we all descend from those few thousand people that survived some massive supervolcano impact. This is a really openly accepted theory in mainstream archaeology and anthropology. They really believe that this is possibly one of the big disaster extinction events that happened to human beings. And there's been several of them.
Right. I know what you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
something that caused like 3 or 4 years of an equivalent of a nuclear winter.
Yeah. Well, here, look at it this way. You remember Mount St. Helens when we were kids? Remember that? Nobody talks about that. Nobody even thinks about that anymore. When we were kids, a fucking volcano in Washington State erupted and people died. They got lavaed.
Yeah.
Right? They got smoked by a volcano.
Ash for months in the atmosphere.
Ash for months. And it just conveniently goes away. That was a little baby volcano. I mean, obviously, no disrespect to anybody who died.
Right.
But in comparison to what Yellowstone has a supervolcano that's 600 miles wide. Something fucking crazy like that. I mean,
That's still, they don't call it active, that volcano, but it's still bubbling.
well, they have thousands of earthquakes
Right.
every year. Thousands.
Like, so shit's going on down there.
Yeah.
Like geysers are shooting out boiling water, and the sulfur content in the water's crazy.
Yeah. Maybe it's 600 kilometers. 600 kilometers, like 300 miles. Whatever it is, it's
can't
so
do that
big that it's a continent killer.
Right.
They're like, when that thing blows, everything near it is dead as fuck. What it is what they call a caldera, which means that it's a volcano that was so big, the top blew off of it. And then you're left with this big crater. And they didn't realize that until they started using satellite images. Once they started using, because we've known about Old Faithful, it's a cool place to visit. You
Right.
go check out the geysers and stuff. That's the ground is boiling like 100 feet below you. There's hot lava, and every 600,000 to 800,000 years, that shit blows sky high. And when it blows sky high, everyone's dead. We're all dead. We're all dead.
And
California's dead. Montana's dead as fuck. Everything around it's just dead.
That's depressing because it really is just a matter of time before there's some impact or earthquake or volcano. It is just a matter of time, and what's it going to be?
Well, what Graham Hancock is exposing is that when you're talking about enormous periods of time, like 10,000 years, 12,000 years, 30,000 years, people cannot recall those natural disasters. They lose the ability to communicate. Sometimes they're not even using the same languages anymore. You're dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I mean, just think about just a few thousand years ago, Latin was like a real language. You know, go try finding someone that's going to talk Latin to you.
Right.
You know, that shit doesn't it's a dead language. That's only a couple thousand years. When you're talking about 30,000 years and the possibility of all these different impacts and different things happening within those 30,000 years, like, who knows? So what he's showing or what he was showing back then, was that this alternative theory is not preposterous at all. Like, there's real good evidence that this is not going to stay like this.
Right. Like, it's not just not preposterous. It's probable and likely that it's just what's next.
Well, Old Faithful was called Old Faithful because it used to be faithful and blow at the exact time. It doesn't do that anymore. It's no longer on the Old Faithful type of schedule that it used to be. So things are changing.
I don't like that.
Under there.
I don't like. It makes me nervous. I don't like that.
You know, and that's just in our lifetime.
When did that stop?
I only recently heard that that news story that Old Faithful is not as faithful as
That
people
bitch.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. The geysers are hot water. The water's boiling. It shoots up into the sky. And we're like, ooh, well, let's get out of here before a giant furry monster eats us. Yellowstone's crazy. That's a crazy goddamn place,
It
man.
is.
Those people have grizzly bears.
Yeah.
Grizzly bears are there all the time.
There's a place up in, I believe it's Ojai, California, where they have these big mud pits that people, go in that are real hot and, it
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
good for
yeah.
this. But what do you think's heating those under there? I mean, that could also just quickly explode.
I don't know. I mean, those hot pits are totally natural in Ojai. Is that what it is?
They, as far as I know, they are. I haven't been in them. I have a healthy fear of them, I guess, for that
Of
reason.
Ojai?
Of just things like that in in nature that could.
Mother Nature
Quickly get ya.
just wants to kill us in so many ways.
But
Just-
sort of. I mean, right now we're fine. I mean, no need to totally freak out about it. But just the awareness that this whole thing is probably pretty fucking temporary.
yeah.
And we're in the worst state to live in.
That's so crazy to say. I don't know why you say that.
Earthquake, volcano, we're definitely better off if we were in like Toronto or something, probably.
You freeze to death in winter. You get hit
with
by
the
a
next-
semi that hits black ice. I think this is a really good state. A lot of nice people.
More people dying of weather and natural things in every other state besides California.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an earthquake, there's going to be a few issues for sure. Yeah, earthquakes fuck a lot of things up. But overall, man, like, you deal with an earthquake once every couple of decades. You deal with winter every fucking year if you go back to Ohio. I'm trying to keep him here.
Biggest,
Going back.
I think the
Going
biggest
back.
fault isn't the biggest fault line like Missouri or it's
That shit doesn't work, though. That's broken. So, like an old train station.
that shit is broken.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, we're worried about stuff that we know about, like these spots where the earth could explode. But there's fucking rocks in the sky that could kill everybody. They hit all the time. They hit every few thousand years. So these spaces of civilization, like 10,000, 12,000 years, and where they find these structures like Göbekli Tepe, and they're like, who the fuck? Where's this coming? It's so likely that that's just a series of events. It's like people build up, they figure out society, get things going really well, they start improving upon things, and boom!
Yep.
Everybody's dead, rotting bodies in the street, diseases, wolves, flee, head to the mountains, rebuild civilization. First fucking tribes don't make it, down to a few people. They slowly bond together, they rebuild. I bet that shit happens every 20,000 years or so.
One of the theories I heard on Göbekli Tepe is since that's what happened, that there was some devastation at that point, that a theory is that they blamed it on whatever gods, and that's why Göbekli Tepe was just covered at that point.
Huh.
Because
Just hide that shit away.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. If you were like a politician, you were trying to take over after the disaster, you'd be like, these motherfuckers and their statues ruined everything, and we're going to fill it in with dirt. Yeah! And that would be like symbolic, because you can't like run a dope-ass city with some statues that the dude before you made.
Nope.
Nope. You got to knock those bitches over.
We still do the same thing today.
Well, ISIS is doing it right now,
Yeah.
all throughout Asia. They keep blowing shit up,
Yeah.
you know?
We yanked down Saddam, didn't we?
Yeah.
Tore that shit right down.
Head fell off.
Yeah, yeah. That's right, that statue.
Forgot about that.
but
So we all do it. We all want to like hide what was before us because what we are is good. What we do is right.
Right, especially when it comes to someone like Saddam Hussein.
Gaddafi.
Like, yeah, like we like celebrated it when that statue went down. Yeah, see the statue go down? Fuck that guy.
We did.
Meanwhile, that statue is kind of history. Like, we really shouldn't have been fucking with it. Because, like, if you could see what Julius Caesar did, like, if you could go back and see what Nero did, like, all the atrocities that he did, you wouldn't want to see a statue of him. But imagine if someone came along and smashed a statue of him. You wouldn't be able to look at it today.
Right.
Like, there's something about when you go to a museum and you look at something from ancient Rome and you go, wow, that crazy fucker. What was Caligula's life like?
Yeah.
What was this guy's life like? You know, these people were nuts. They were out of their fucking minds. They were living at a crazy, crazy time of taking over the world with swords and bows and arrows and shit. But is Saddam Hussein worse than them? No.
No.
No, not really.
No, just
They
a
should have
different
taken
period.
that shit and put it in a museum somewhere. They
My
shouldn't have.
college had Christopher Columbus pointing at the cafeteria.
Right. Yeah, when we were kids, he was a cool guy.
Yeah.
He just became something over the last decade or so, right? That Christopher Columbus was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, another thing, I believe it's from Graham Hancock, but the Iraqi museum had a lot of material that just got wiped out during these wars that we'll never be able to get back, that had to do with ancient societies and Egypt and things like that. So during these wars, you know, the whole place was just looted. You know, the museum was looted, so they lost all of those, you know.
That's a
Ancient
tragedy.
treasures.
That's like
Yeah.
the birth of modern civilizations, like the Tigris and the Euphrates, that little valley there. You got to keep that. You know, I understand the politics, but you got to keep the history. Leave it alone. There's rules of war that says you can bomb anything you want, but the Colosseum in Rome, that's not cool. You do that, you were going to talk to you in The Hague in a few years. You know, the Great Wall of China, you guys leave that alone. Bomb each other, but there are protected sites in the world that need to stay protected.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Like, we decide, like, okay, look, we don't even like you, but this building's pretty dope.
Yeah.
So we're not going to fuck up that building.
And then I go, all right, you got it. Like, all right, no punching in the face. Okay, cool. You know?
Yeah, because did they ever bomb Paris? Did, like, the Eiffel Tower get bombed or anywhere around Paris get bombed?
not
to
really.
America.
They just kind of stormed through there.
Because they did. There's still like a lot of munition. There's like this area outside of Paris in France. It's like the size of Paris that you can't even go into today.
Oh, because there's still like ordnance buried under the ground.
Well, they keep finding stuff there. They stack it up in these warehouses and shit. It's just like a depository for bombs and bomb chemicals. They all fucking either launched them out of there, or they landed there, or they didn't go off, or they left behind mines and bombs. It's like this huge area that you can't even go in. It's all toxic. And it's the size of Paris, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was wondering, was there a conscious decision to not bomb? Like maybe they did, and I don't know it.
I don't think they did. I think they just kind of rolled through there. Because I mean, you figure London got the shit kicked out of it.
See if you can find that picture. Just, there's photos of the munitions where they stack them up. It's crazy.
Picture of Paris getting bombed from the air. Here.
Oh, well, there you go.
So it definitely got bombed.
Did they leave the Eiffel
Oh,
Tower
my God.
alone?
Look at that. Boom.
1940. It says.
Holy shit. Wow. There goes our history.
Like the Library of Alexandria got destroyed.
That was in Egypt, though.
I know, but I'm just saying.
But that was during the Muslim
Yeah, I know it's a
invasions.
different time period, but I was going to ask, like that, is there something today that contains a bunch of, I don't know, history that could be destroyed and ruined?
Smithsonian.
Yeah, like
Computers, bro. The problem would be if the power went out for more than a couple of years, it's never coming back.
Right.
If the grid got destroyed, if something happened that was so big that it destroyed the power grid and we needed to reestablish a grid, good luck
That's
and then
Walking Dead.
we lose 50% of the population in the impact, and then well, we were left with chaos and lawlessness and fucking people starving to death and no one knows what to do. Yeah, good luck getting the power back on. And all it would take is one of those things. It might take 100 years for the power to come back on.
And that might not even be negative intent of humans. That can happen just from the sun.
Sure.
An EMP. We don't know.
Right.
We haven't had electric long enough. We might have had an EMP.
What's an EMP? Explain it to people.
Electromagnetic pulse, which would take out all of the
I
electric.
like how you just say EMP. Like we're like, yeah, EMP.
We sit around and talk about those all the time.
No,
so.
there's dog. The magnetic
throw up a
pulses
growl.
is a motherfucker.
But there's they've tried to make EMP weapons that'll take out a full grid. But the sun could produce that. So if the sun did that, it could have been done in history when we just didn't have electric.
There's evidence of an EMP or a solar flare that hit sometime in the 19th century, and we only know about it because a telegraph went down. All the telegraphs in America went down for 2 days, and everyone was like, "What happened?" And then a couple of days later, everything worked again. And scientists think that it was a solar flare or an ejection that caused an EMP and just shut down all the power for a few days here. It would be Walking Dead if it happened now.
It's so crazy that we rely on that thing to stay stable. This giant ball of nuclear power that's floating in the sky. It's 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth, and we count on it to stay stable.
We do.
What the fuck?
Solar flares still happen a lot, though.
They do.
Recently, there was something that knocked something out from a solar flare.
Yeah, but the sun has been weird lately. It's been really, really dark and strange with not a lot of activity.
Someone smokes too much pot. Mm-hmm. The sun's been dark and strange with not a lot of activity.
Yeah, I'm
What are you talking about?
I'm
Are you being
an ice. Yeah, I'm being serious.
Oh, what's going on with the sun?
The sun normally has a lot of solar activity, storms, ejections, all that kind of stuff. The last 12, 15 years, it's been really quiet.
Oh, shit.
It's dying.
No, it's a cycle. But everybody freaks out. It's global warming. It's global cooling. It's climate this. It's just a solar cycle, and the sun is just chilled right now and taking a breather. And in 10 years,
even
it'll
when
be good.
they say solar cycle, they're measuring what they've been measuring over the period of whatever amount of decades they've been able to measure solar cycles. But just think about how long the fucking sun's been around.
The sun laughs at that measurement.
Yeah, the sun's like, oh, you expect me to behave like I've been behaving for the last 50 years? Yeah, good luck with that, dude. Because I got a fucking temper. Sometimes I like to blow up a whole solar system. Poof, turn it into a crisp. I watched this crazy documentary on hypernovas. And that they initially thought that they were witnessing, when they saw these gamma bursts in the sky, they thought they were witnessing war between alien races. That was the initial reaction to measuring these gamma bursts in the sky. And then they realized somewhere along the line that you're looking at a hypernova, like an enormous burst, an explosion that's so great that if it was in a nearby cluster, it would kill us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gamma radiation, I think that is the highest that we can even measure.
Yeah, and the thing was that it was happening all day, all throughout the sky. They would be measuring this for the first time, and they were seeing poof, 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 poof. All these different spots in the universe were experiencing these gamma bursts.
How would you not think it's Star Wars?
Yeah, exactly.
I would totally think
that's
that.
exactly what they thought. They're like, oh my God, what if they come? What if they come and they have this kind of power? They have gamma power.
Right, so we have to ban weed. We have to, get society on the right track.
But it seems like at least we could give them our gold and our women, and they might leave us be. It might be possible to negotiate. But you can't negotiate. I'm just kidding about that, obviously. But you can't negotiate with a supernova. When a sun explodes and takes out the entire surrounding area for billions and billions of miles, that's it. It's less feared, but way scarier.
Right, you can't build an ark to escape a nova, it's just not, that's just a little water.
But apparently it happens all the time.
And
it's probably one happening right now somewhere.
And you could never convince society of it that, hey, we got bigger problems to worry about than between me and you here.
Then pot delivery services, you fuck.
Absolutely.
Speedweed.com. Speedweed.com.
Speedweed.com delivers outside of Los Angeles.
So you'll get a little package like this, just like Amazon Prime, although it'll be in a box that you don't, looks like just a regular delivery.
This is your QVC.
You're getting
moment.
them. You're sending them through the mail.
It's not through the mail. It's through
people.
Through a medical courier. Yeah.
Oh, a courier, a medical courier.
Yep.
How high is your medical courier?
Well,
he's in the middle of driving, going, "What am I doing with my feet?"
They actually don't know what medicine they have because they do all sorts of medication. They don't just.
Oh, okay. So they don't just do pot.
Nope.
Meanwhile, I bet they're still high as fuck.
So, there are regulations that are coming down for transport as well. The Teamsters want to get their hands in transport, which they are one of the people who are rallying against legalization of marijuana. They're with the unions for prisons, so they're kind of fighting on both sides. They want to be involved in transportation of marijuana. However, they're lobbying for to keep it illegal.
They're the Teamsters. They're going to be on whatever side wins. Hey,
Of course.
we're over here now. Okay, you're over here now.
Yeah.
So again, what we were considered was similar to the dominoes of marijuana here in LA. We are evolving. That's what we were doing before this lawsuit happened. We really want to be considered more like Amazon Prime. So where you're
Of course you do. They make a lot of money.
Of course. And
What, do you think we're dumb?
well, now that
It kind of would be like Circuit City.
well, Governor Brown's new laws
Blockbuster.
have changed so that marijuana companies can be for profit now. They don't have to be not for profit, which is how it's been for the last 20 years here. So. And so that has to go into effect by 2018. So that's something to consider also. Once that happens, that changes things for a lot of cannabis businesses. But that all said, every cannabis business that's in LA that's not a dispensary in that, whether they're making edibles or they're making vaporizers or anything, and it's a thriving industry, they're all illegal. Every bit of it. So regulation does need that to happen, here in LA. And what we're asking for isn't, hey, just overturn this. We're not saying that. We're saying we know the city attorney does believe that safe access is important, but he feels he has to uphold this law that was put into effect before he was the city attorney. So since he knows this is a bad law that he has to enforce, he could also affect change by helping go down the path of legalization for good businesses. He's not an idiot. He realizes what a bad law is. He just knows his job is to enforce it.
Got it.
So hopefully he'll join the fight to find a path towards legalization.
Okay, what can people do? The people that are listening, to wrap this all up, what the people that are listening, what's a good way to follow this or a good way to help?
Good way to help, if you're in California, a good way to help is to join our collective, even if you don't buy anything, and we'll keep you in touch with the politicians and we'll put pressure on them. If you're outside of California,
What does that mean? You politicians, you put pressure on them joining. What would that entail?
joining our collective, like if you're a medical marijuana patient, join Speedweed.com. And we are working actively with the city to try to solve this. It's not like, so we're fighting in court, yes, on one hand, but on the other hand, we are conversing with the city. Like the city knows this is broken.
Okay, but what do you mean by joining your collective? Like, what does that entail?
Go to speedweed.com, click join, and you put your name, email address.
That's all they have to do?
That's pretty much it.
Do they have to show you proof of medical marijuana license?
They do if they want to order.
Prescription. But
Yeah.
but they could join your collective without doing that.
They need to show proof that they're a patient to join our collective.
Oh, okay. All right. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we also have.
You guys are so lackadaisical with this. It's so normal. It's like, yeah, just join our collective. Like, what?
It's hard to, it's hard to be,
Most people don't know what we're even talking about.
I know.
What?
They don't.
Try and make it
Medical what?
easy as
Drugs.
possible. You could, if you don't have your card, your doctor recommendation, you could get it right on our website by doing a Skype session with your doctor. And we told the story about how we got our cards in the
Wait a
beginning.
minute.
It's changed so much.
Wait a minute. A doctor, or I have to get my doctor to do a Skype
No,
session?
a
You have
doctor.
your own doctor,
Right.
Yeah. So not your doctor. You're saying
Not your doctor.
Your doctor.
We have a group of doctors.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That are professional doctors that you'll do a real Skype session, and they'll talk to you about what your ailment is, and you could get your card instead of going somewhere. You could just do it right in your living room.
That's an important point.
Yeah.
See, you were making it seem like the guy had to get like, oh man, I got to get my doctor to Skype.
No,
in
no,
with these
no.
people.
Nope.
Hey
Takes
doc,
10
can you
minutes.
Skype in at 1:00? Jesus Christ.
How many tokens?
It takes 10 minutes to do. Right on our website, we have
That's amazing.
interactive people waiting that
That's a selling point.
will take you right through the whole process.
This is what we need to do. We need to buy a warehouse in California, and a bunch of people use it as their mailing address, and then get people from other states to become a part of your collective, and they have like a fake mailing address. Then we hook them up with weed.
All right, we got to talk more about
Right.
that idea after this goes dark, because city attorney's watching, and I know he is.
It's illegal to do it that way, but I think it's just funny that you have to be in this patch of dirt in order to follow those rules. Like you can't, you
Right.
couldn't join the collective. You couldn't be like from Wisconsin and decide, I want to join one of those California pot collectives. I'll Skype in with the doctor, and no, you have to actually have like your mail delivered here. It's so stupid.
It's weird, like an arbitrary line in
Yeah.
the sand politically.
Yeah.
You cross this line, go to jail.
Yeah.
to come back here, get baked, and have a good time.
Well, that's what happens with people that go into Texas. You fuck up and you're in a tour bus and you wee-haw, this way's the best. And you hear whoop, whoop. Oh, no. That's a son of the police. You get pulled over and you're like, oh, no, we got pulled over for weed in Texas. This is not like getting pulled over for weed in California.
And next thing you know, Willie Nelson's in jail.
Yeah, that's how Willie Nelson got arrested, right?
Yep.
That's hilarious that someone, such a piece of shit, they arrested Willie Nelson. I'd quit my job. So my kids are going hungry. Fuck this.
It's
I agreed.
It's actually pretty scary getting pulled over with weed in California nowadays because the DUI rate has gone crazy. My friend's a lawyer, DUI lawyer, and half of his cases now are just from marijuana. And they have a new test where they do the same kind of thing with your eye, but it like goes left and right real fast if you're high or something like that. And if they feel like they can smell weed, and if you fail this test, you're getting a DUI just like an
What are you
alcohol
saying?
DUI.
It goes left to right real quick?
So,
what?
so you know when you get pulled over, they do the test with your eye, like follow my hand. Now, I think with alcohol, I think it shoots over, like your eye shoots over to the left or the right really fast, or it's jerky. When you're high, your eye reacts different. It's kind of like a jiggly left and right effect.
There can't be any science to that, is
well,
there?
that's it. Right now,
Find that out,
Right
Jamie.
now in court, they are fighting just that.
And
If it's like legit test, and they don't have a .08 for weed yet, so they don't
here's-
really have any laws.
Here's the main problem, and I think you'll agree with me. There's never been a study that shows there's any loss of motor skills.
Nope.
None.
Right.
There was one study about driving while smoking weed, and that they found that people actually performed better on
Yeah.
the road.
Well, that's the problem. It's not a motor skill thing. It's not like alcohol. Everybody knows that if you drink too much, you don't drive good. Everybody knows that. It's bad for your motor skills. Pot's not. It's simple. So what are they pulling you over for exactly? State of mind? So, because if it doesn't affect your motor skills, like, is it affecting your judgment? Can you prove that people who are intoxicated on marijuana perform less intelligently than people that are intoxicated on caffeine or cigarettes? Because you know they're doing that. A cop could pull a guy over. He could have a cigarette in the corner of his mouth, drinking a cup of coffee, and no one says a word. Those are two drugs interacting with each other. No one has a problem. So it's a state of mind issue?
So, and he could have those drugs and still have a
Right.
couple of pops at the bar
Right.
to really amp up all that aggression and still legally drive behind.
But what is intoxication? I mean, isn't intoxication supposed to be a loss of motor skills?
well.
Right, but it's sort of arbitrary because
Right.
what is intoxicating? I mean, the swab test just did not pass in California where they were trying to swab for THC molecules, and it's like, no, that's totally
You
not
can't
going
do
to work.
that.
You can't do that.
Because someone could just walk through a party and then they get swabbed and they're in trouble. They don't even have any of it in their system. You can't. You can't.
You
do
can't.
that.
Like Gino, with what he smokes, I don't know. I don't even know when he's high. I don't know when he's stoned.
Trust me, he's high right now.
I know he is. I know he is.
Trust me.
But you wouldn't know. Like so many people are high right now, and you wouldn't know.
Right. Of course.
So how can you test for it?
Well, the real problem is what can you show is bad about being high? I need to see something on your tests where you show me why you should be able to pull people over while you're wearing a gun and shine a light in their face and get them out of their vehicle and make them do things. Like, what is the worst case? You're looking for marijuana. Okay. What's the worst case scenario that's going on with this person that's on the marijuana? Are they performing in any way, shape, or form where they're a danger to the people around them? So if that is true, I think you have to prove that before you put people in a fucking cage.
Yep.
It also varies from person to person, I believe. I know a girl that smokes a joint. She can't drive. She can barely function as a human. But, like Gino could do a whole ounce and he'll be fine to drive. As exact same driver as before, if not better. But this girl, no way. I wouldn't even let her in the car if she smoked a
Well,
joint.
I bet she probably shouldn't be able to drive anyway. How about that? You can't nerf the world, dude.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
but there should be like a test. We've talked about this before, like a marijuana test. Like you are a 10, meaning you could do marijuana and anything and you're fine. But this person's like rated as 6.
But it's a mind issue. It's not a motor skill issue. This is where the problem lies. It's like, yeah, I guess some people would freak out when they're on pot and they would lose their mind and maybe they shouldn't be intoxicated. But those people probably lose their mind if someone yelled at them.
Right.
You know, like some people are just weak.
Yeah.
They just, whatever, the glue that keeps their reality together is just really fragile. And then throw some pot in there or a drink. I mean, how many people do we know that have one drink and like, woo, they get fucking crazy? That's a person whose reality is really shaky.
Right.
But that doesn't have anything to do with me. You
No.
know? And the idea that cops look towards that as being the standard is ridiculous.
Right, so
Because I was going to say, if you have like a festival, like a cops test potheads festival, we would do it.
Yeah.
We would fucking do it.
Oh,
Look,
beat that.
for sure, you could have go-karts, set it up. What do you want to do? You want to have fucking one of those mud bogger races?
Yeah.
We'll do this, let us smoke pot. We'll do all that. We'll have jiu-jitsu tournaments where people smoke pot before they do jiu-jitsu.
Get orange cones
Yeah.
and clipboards
Yeah.
and some weed, and people will join.
Fuck yeah.
And we'll learn. We'll know.
Yeah. Well, you need to show some sort of significant issue. Because there's a significant issue with some people, but you're not even stopping those people from taking who knows what the fuck they're taking as far as antidepressants or psychoactive substances prescribed by their doctors. And how many people are on fucking Adderall, man? That's meth. They're taking meth. They're driving around. You know? I know a bunch of adults that take that shit on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So what you're dealing with is a lot of different chemicals that could potentially fuck with the mind. Like, why are you concentrating on pot? Like, you haven't shown any reason to concentrate on pot.
You know, the chief of police in New York City recently said that every crime could be tied back to marijuana.
That's hilarious.
That's
Including him.
Which is
He's a criminal.
outrageous because it's just trying to give more reach for police officers to pull you over.
That is
and
such a
search you.
crazy, irresponsible thing to say. That's like saying every crime could be tied back to water.
Or parents.
Yeah, we all have 96% water, and it's all crime. Yeah, it's all stupid, man. It really is. It's just something that should be a joke that we look back on from the 1930s. We look back and go, wow, look at the craziness that these people had to deal with back then. But instead, we have to deal with it today in the age of Google and information and scientific studies ad nauseum that all show the same thing. And none of them show any negative effects. None of them. There's like some questions about memory. That's it. But it seems to only affect you while you're on it. When you
Right.
get off of it, it doesn't seem to have any effect on your memory at all.
I mean, the head of the DEA currently said medical marijuana. That's just a joke. Let's get past that. And the head of the DEA before that, when asked by Congress, is marijuana more detrimental than meth? She said she can't answer.
We played that many times on the show because it's so ridiculous.
Oh,
'Cause
that was
this-
Leonhardt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She was,
and this was a senator or something kept grilling her. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen it, it's fucking infuriating.
it is.
So what's so infuriating also is that we all know. So
course.
how come these people who are in power aren't in the know?
Because
why are
it's
they
not
hiding?
that they're not in the know. It's that they are the official response, right? So they, like, that lady's just doing her job. She couldn't just speak out of turn. She couldn't. She would get fired. She couldn't just say whatever she wants, even if she doesn't believe that it should be illegal. She's not going to say that because that's not
No.
her job. Her job is to do whatever the fuck her superiors tell her to do.
And to stay employed and to
Yeah.
make sure her budget doesn't get cut.
Exactly. That's her job. So it's not even her fault. It's the fault of the system that they accept that. The whole thing is preposterous. It doesn't hold up anymore.
Well, this is why we have to play this game of politics. We just want to run a business and a good business, but we have to play this game of
Right.
politics because if we don't, from the bottom, affect change to those people who are at the top, then and let them continue to create these laws, we could just go another 20 years with these bad laws when
Right.
there's no reason for it.
Yeah. I think you're right. I'm just hoping that what's going to go on is that, as you know, from the time that I first got my license to today, how much more open it's been, much more relaxed people are, much more accepting people are of it, and much more accepting amongst grown adults. You just see the attitudes of people, they're changing, and people are understanding how beneficial it is, especially for people who need it medically. Cancer patients, things along those lines, kids with epilepsy, ADD, things along those lines. There's just so many people that benefit from it. It's hopefully it's on its way out. All the laws are on their way out.
Yeah, and you can't just disregard the experience of the masses.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. It's not fair.
No, it's because we're lucky to be in sort of the social media age, which can be annoying at times, but it also allows information to move very quickly.
Yeah.
So if your kid is helped by having fewer seizures, everybody's going to know about that in 24 hours. So you can't really suppress the truth any longer. And even Texas is polling positively.
Yeah.
Florida's going to pass it. You know, Pennsylvania just passed it. It's the dominoes are falling.
The dominoes are falling, and people like Chris Christie are going to be, as Amber Lyon likes to say, on the wrong side of history. Mm-hmm. And that's just, there's no other way around it. It's just, this guy's a fool. He's a fool, and he needs to get off the sugar. Contact Mark Sisson, bitch. He'll straighten you out. Primalblueprint.com. All right, that's it. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Gino. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Red Band. Oh, Red Band, you got a show this Thursday.
Denver Comedy Works, and then we're going there with George Perez and Ryan Dune. The following week, we're in New York with the Legion of Skanks people. And
The
Doug
Skank
Stanhope.
Fest.
Yeah.
Powerful Skank Fest. So, Denver Comedy Works Thursday. Awesome spot. Tomorrow night, I'm at the Ice House with Ian Edwards. Ian's doing both shows, and I think Joey's doing the second show, too. So this will be the last shows that I do before I do my comedy special. So, all right, you fucks. AJ, thank you. Thank you, Gino. Always appreciate you guys. Speedweed.com?
Just speedweed.com.
Speedweed.com.
Yeah.
Speedweed.com, you fucking monsters.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, buddy.
Just